Hey,
Hello,
Hey.
I'm
How are we all?
Bonjour. Bonjour. Is all alignments okay
Yeah,
between
At present.
countries and planets? Yeah.
yeah, we're all good.
Brilliant. Brilliant. Welcome everyone. Amber, Liz, Tayters, Randy.
Hog.
Hey.
Thanks for having us.
No problem at all. Now, shall we dive right into it? Because
Sure.
I think I said enough this week.
Yeah.
Shut up, everyone. Shut up. I don't mean it that way. No.
So, has that ever stopped you before?
No.
Oh, no.
I had to do a channel because everyone around me was getting fed up and said, like, get therapy.
I mean, you certainly riled up your audience. I mean,
Randy, fair. Who? Well, I riled up someone's audience. It obviously isn't mine because they're never coming back to my channel. A lot of them. So, who wants to kick off? Because I kind of think we're all in a rough agreement about this latest episode of The Last of Us.
Yes.
Maybe I was vocal and I went off on one, but what I do is I make very, very basic notes for everything I do. Shut up, Taters. And I just kind of go on how I feel with it. And I think there was a point, if I rewatch my video, I think there's a point where I kind of maybe snap and think, oh, I've had enough, or it might have been at the beginning of the video, but that's where I was with it. Anyway, who wants to give their opinion?
Okay.
First.
Go on, Liz.
Okay.
So kick the off, podcast 12. Go on.
So watch the episode, boring as fuck. Simple as that. Now, with what people were saying about it, and I went and looked it up a little bit, this was downloadable content. So it wasn't actually part of the first game. It was downloadable content that got released a year later. All it gives us is it lets us know that Ellie is lesbian, and it shows us a section of her life where there is a bit of intrigue in terms of where she could have got bitten and how she got bitten. You don't need a whole episode to do that. That could have been weaved in earlier on in the story so we can relate to Ellie more. It could have been weaved in the previous episode when Joel goes into the house and said he's leaving her with Tommy. She could then turn around and say, she did turn around and say, everyone I know has either died or left me. You can't do it as well. And she could have easily weaved that bit into there. Or you could have weaved it into the beginning of this episode where she's trying to operate on Joel to keep him going. And she's talking to him and opening up. You can't die. This is what's happened to me before. Or
just lift it. We don't need to see it.
But if you're going to put it in there, 10 minutes max. 10 minutes max. You don't need a whole episode. Move the story along.
Does anyone else agree with that?
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
The fact that it was downloadable content means that it wasn't necessary to the story from the beginning.
Yeah,
that's it.
Yeah.
That being said,
I said that in my video.
Okay. That being said, and Lizard, do you prefer Mr. Space Lizard or Lord Space Lizard?
No, just Liz.
Well, funny fact. Interesting fact. I am actually a lord.
Oh wow.
Oh well.
As other people understand it.
My lordship, I'm going to disagree with you. Okay, so so the basic premise of what you're saying is correct. I mean, this is downloadable content, so kind of an add-on. It's not really a full story. Maybe, I mean, it depends. I mean, I have some downloadable content for Fallout that is. I mean, it's 2 or 3 chapters worth of content, but I think that you could have done an entire episode, but they did not go around about it the right way. So they focused on this relationship, and they did a poor job of focusing on this relationship because nothing really happens. There's just a bunch of events that they do, and that's not exciting. There's not conflict. There's not a recognizable path that they're supposed to be going down, and so where you can see whether they're failing, they're succeeding, or whatever. To me, if you get towards the end of the episode, we have some really good content. So they're talking about, do we stick it out or do we take the easy way out? Okay, that is a great concept. It was worth exploring. That leads into her going back and working on saving Joel, trying to stitch him up, even though she has no idea how to do that. So that is all powerful storytelling, and it's all appropriate. And if the rest of the episode was more on that line, I think we'd have something. And I do also appreciate that at the beginning, I think we see the clearest proponents for both sides. So with Ellie, we see her really pro. I'm sorry, what do they call themselves? The
Fedra.
Fedra. She's really pro Fedra, and then Riley is really pro Firefly. Okay, and I got to say that from both of their points of view, I think they're right. There's good things from both, and I think that generally the members of both groups have the best interest for the survival of the human race in mind. And I think they could have played more with that. I think they could have built more up to the, do we give in easy or do we stick it out and fight as long as we can? So those are good themes, but they don't stick with it. So we have probably, I would say, the
good themes that haven't been executed correctly. And
right. So the first 20 minutes, I mean, I like the first 20 minutes and I like the last 15 minutes, right? It's just all that in the middle where they're just, I don't know, they're walking around a mall. That's just not exciting content. And it doesn't move a story anywhere. It just says they were lovers.
The story stops. The story stops. So we end episode 6 with Joel being stabbed. We open up episode 7 with him bleeding out. And then we end the episode on basically her going back. We still haven't seen him healed. So essentially,
needle and thread.
Yeah. So essentially, you could completely miss episode 7 and jump straight onto 8.
You can.
Because so that to me tells me it's not relevant to the story. And bearing in mind there's only 3 episodes left, you've got to pack those episodes. From what I understand the games, there's a lot that's going to be happening in those episodes. So you've got to pack it and build that crescendo. They've made their journey. In episode 6 was like the crucial moment for them where they decided he's given her an option out and they've decided that she's going to stick with him, or she decided. He gave her the choice. So that is your sort of final definitive moment at securing those two as a couple going forwards. So now go forwards with them. We've just paused for an hour basically. And now we've got 2 episodes left where Joel's going to have to heal. So unless they do a time jump or something like that, he's not going to be healed for most of episode 8. And then you're going to have to cram everything into episode 9. And everything's going to feel rushed. And then when you're rushing the final episode of a season, you look at all the little side bits that have happened throughout. You could have easily condensed that down. We described episode 1 as setup. Episode 2 was basically the Tessa episode. Episode 3 was Frank and Bill, which I just want to point out was a great episode, even though it was a side bit. But the way they hooked you in with that story was awesome. Then we had episode 4 where nothing happened. Episode 5 was good. Episode 6 was good. And then episode 7, nothing happens. Now, I'm not saying exclude any of that. I'm just saying there'd be a better way to do it and a better usage of the time which you're putting into this season, and you could put that into flashbacks throughout. Maybe you could put a little bit here, a little bit there, a little bit there. Maybe you could put it all in at the beginning so we actually understand Eddie a bit better at the beginning, or it can just be done through dialogue and referencing it.
Yes.
There's lots of ways.
I agree with Randy about it was interesting to get Ellie's perspective on Fedra.
Yeah, 100% it was.
But this is episode 7. We've had an opportunity. We've had 6 episodes of opportunity, especially when they went to the cowboy town, where I really did enjoy that feral. I said it in my review. The feral nature. It was like even Joel as well. It looked like you just plucked 2 people out of the wilderness and put them in. And I like that idea. But I know what you're saying. I agree with you, Randy. It was interesting to see her opinion on Fedra, like this political, which I thought was a very modern day America way of dealing with the politics of the day, like the polarization and UK politics, to be fair, everything's getting polarized. So you got her mate saying, "Oh, I'm with the Fireflies now, and they're great, they're revolutionary," and she's saying, "Well, I'm with Fedra, and like, you know, I support." Oh, anyway, let's not go there. But we've had a 6-episode opportunity for Ellie to express those opinions through their travels, but they can't do that. They have to have the discussion to hammer that political viewpoint home. Do you see, Randy? Do you see what I mean? I'm agreeing with you. Where it's interesting to get that character's point of view, but how much more interesting would it be for her to have had that conversation with Joel for the previous 6 episodes?
I agree. And here's
his brother with the Fireflies. She's with Fedra and the circumstances, but instead they've got to have a walk and a talk through the mall, play some games and have a kiss and talk about like, oh, you know, let's channel. Am I watching Dismal?
I'm there with you on that. All right. I mean, I feel that this should have been earlier. So the only reason I would put it this late in the series, in the episode, you know, the first series, first season, is that if Ellie moves on to make a decision in the next episode or the next 2 episodes, right, where it comes down to a choice between Fedra, Fireflies, right, then that becomes important. It's been brought up just at the right time. But I suspect we're not going to see that, which means we really did not need that in the last episode. We should have had it, like you said, much earlier. And I think that would have added a lot to it because there's conflict there, right? Who's right? Well, apparently no side is right. And you could play off of that a lot, which they haven't done.
Yeah. Oh, well, yeah. It felt like this episode, the Matrix fell. That I saw through the Matrix of this whole series, and I thought, oh, none of these episodes. It's almost like an anthology. I wouldn't mind if it was a sci-fi. If it was tales from post-apocalyptic.
Was it you, Amber, said? You said Tales of the Apocalypse, didn't you? You mentioned.
Yeah, Tales of the Apocalypse would be an interesting series where each episode is its own unique story, people and how they deal with certain situations, and that's what we're getting. We're getting a mix of that with this Joel and Ellie journey. And to me, the Joel and Ellie journey is the glue holding this whole series together, because everything else, even Bill and Frank, could have been chucked and put in a different series and it wouldn't affect the main plot.
No, they could have their own series.
If we had just focused on the Joel and Ellie story, the whole season would be 5 episodes.
What would be wrong with that? A nice little mini series.
Exactly.
Well, like Chernobyl, that the Thingy Bob did. I think that was 5 episodes. Oh no, it's a bit different because it's a true story, but I thought that was one of the best horror series ever made.
Yeah, most definitely.
That was so horrific, and the way they did it to graphically detail what people were literally walking into, and that's the one thing I think that what they've done is they've lured me in with the professionalism of everyone involved. Everything involved in this series, I've got to say, has been as slick as anything. From the first episode, I've praised it for 6 episodes. But what I think, I've got to this 7th episode and I've realised that I've wasted my time here, because I'm not going to get a Joel and Ellie travel. I'm not going to get one of them die at the end. Liz pointed out that every character that they bring into every episode is going to die. Like I said in my review, as soon as she climbed through that window, I thought, right, they're going to cop off, they're going to scissor each other, and she's going to die. And I'm not joking. I knew as soon as she come through that window, and I know it's in the game. And this is the other thing. If it was that important to the game, why was it downloadable content?
Yeah.
Like, if it was that important, so why is it in the first series of this show? Why have they expanded on, and I'm going to have to go there again, sorry, why have they have to expand on a male gay relationship? Why have they had to expand on a female gay relationship, why have they had to expand on a black character with his younger brother and ignore anything else? Like I said in my review, what's in it for me? If it's going to be diverse and inclusive, what's in it for me? That's what's angered me with this. What's in it
Yeah.
for me?
No, I
Including
totally
everyone else.
agree.
What, don't anyone heterosexual and white survive a post-apocalyptic fungi infection?
The problem
Kind of
that I
have to, really.
the problem that I have with focusing on these other relationships, like I don't care if you've got, okay, the creators are gay and they said that they wanted to create a show that was a gay show, post-apocalypse.
Oh, now you tell me.
Well, they said it in an interview, like that was the purpose. We wanted to create gay content and make it, epic, and so that's what they've done. But the problem is that these are not essential to the story.
No.
Bill and
Exactly.
Frank were not essential to the story. Even the story with what's her name? Ellie and Riley.
Yeah.
It wasn't really essential to the story.
No.
I mean, there were little tidbits in there that were important, but we didn't need to watch it all play out. So the thing is people are saying, oh, this is wonderful, beautiful content. But I think that if this was more popular, let's say there was a ton of high budget, well-made gay content out there, eventually people would look at something like this and say, why did we waste our time with that pointless story?
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
So
Because
I just had a
so
thought.
people are really interested in it.
Did it hurt?
It did. It hurt a lot. I'm gonna have to probably leave right after this.
No, go on, Randy. Go on.
Okay. So at its essence, the apocalyptic movies are about survival of the human race. I mean, that's an obvious, right? And the problem is if you have a series that really wants to focus on gay and lesbian communities and movement forward, these are segments of society that would die out, because if they are strictly gay or lesbian, they're not going to reproduce. So they are a doomed culture in this setting, and kind of contrary to what the genre is about, which is the human race surviving. Will they survive or will they not? So in this, really the question is, will the zombies eat them, or will they just die of old age and finally those communities will be gone? So I don't know that I think that that's a great combination.
No.
It could be a good tragedy, though, if you were going to play up, like, do we sacrifice our lifestyle and our desires for the good of mankind? That's a good story, but they're not exploring
Yes. But they're not right. They're not doing that. I'm just saying, and I'm not like trying to be against the gays or the lesbians, right? I'm not trying to make a political statement. I'm just purely from the point of writing a story and knowing the genre. The genre is about survival, and these are doomed cultures in that environment. If they remain strict to their beliefs and their orientation, they're going to die out within a generation.
Don't worry, Randy. I'm going to edit this video in such a way you're going to get.
I'm going to get a lot of flack too. Thank you. That's just what I need.
Down that river, man.
None of that stuff we were just talking about bothered me. Like the proof's in the pudding when we got delivered the Bill and Frank episode. That was an awesome episode of TV. Same with Henry and Sam. It's a great episode of TV. But with this episode, I just found it. None of what the content of the episode bothered me. It was just the fact that it wasn't relevant to the story, and we need to build up the crescendo and build towards our season finale. We were building it up with the tension, and then the tension just got sliced back all the way down to zero, and we've got to wait another week before anything happens.
Also, these episodes, I think, are maybe, if you are doing, I know this is like it's 9 episodes, isn't it? This first series, but maybe if you've got a 12, if you're in series 3 or 4 and you've done 12 episodes each series and you want to flesh out background of a character here and a character there, these are stories that would really resonate. They would really resonate because they give you a little insight, a detail, a tiny detail. You've been asking questions for years now because you've seen 30 odd episodes of Walking Dead or whatever it is, and you get a little episode of well-made TV and character-driven drama dropped in, and you think, oh wow, that was great. Like the Bill and Frank episode, you know, and I still stand by what I said. You know, I'm not going to say suddenly, oh my god, I had lesbians this week and now I hate the gays. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying it's all boring. Well, this week was boring. As an interlude, Bill, you know, ultimately it went nowhere.
Right.
No, that's the point.
It was a great one episode, a nice short story of Twilight Zone or whatever you want to call it, of Outer Limits. But it weren't even that. It wasn't weird. It was just a gay love story. Anyway, ultimately, it's one episode out of 9 in the first season of what I was going to follow Joe and Ellie. I thought, you know, I thought Bill or Frank might have ended. I thought something might have made sense later on down the line. Did any of you, picking up on what Randy was saying earlier on, did any of you watch Why the Last Man TV show?
No.
I did not.
It bombed badly. It was from a graphic novel, and the basis of the story was it was post-apocalyptic, and what happened is all the men.
Oh, I saw a trailer for that.
Yeah,
I know what you're talking
The
about.
Last Man. And it was based on a graphic novel by DC Comics Vertigo, and the premise was awesome. And I bought it. You know, I'm trying to be like pro gay now. That anyway, what they posited, what Randy was saying, in a post-apocalyptic world where that goes too far, Why the Last Man was about literally all the men die, except for a guy called Yorick and his little monkey. And it was about his journey through the post-apocalyptic America. But what they turned it into, I thought it was such an intriguing story about the death of about the ultimate demise of the human race in the graphic novel. So it was very well written. The artwork was great, and it was a finite series. It was quite long, so it went on for, blimey. Anyway, when one of you are talking, I'll go and research. It was a finite series, beginning, middle, and end. But basically, asking the question that Randy was kind of getting at, that if, all right, okay, you know, free love, man, you know, do what you want, but we're all going to die. Like, the human race isn't going to continue. But what they turned it into, and the reason it only lasted one really quick season, is because they just made it a feminist, agenda-driven, ridiculous, preachy, lesbians are all right series, which wasn't exciting. It wasn't. I don't hate. You know, I'm not any ist or phobe at all. But when your main point of your story is saying it's all right and nothing, you haven't got a beginning, middle, end, it's just all right, let's kiss, let's snog, let's scissor, let's just whatever you want to do, bum, whatever. If that's the point of your story, it's boring. It is boring. It was episode 7 was a boring episode of television that remained truthful to the game. Well, I will say, well, that's a wrong move. They should have adapted the game to the new format, whether it's a book to TV, whether it's a comic to film, whether it's a comic to TV or a game to film. You adapt to the format.
Yeah. They
failed, and it's boring. But everyone was charging at me, saying, "Oh, you don't like lesbians, and you don't like black." Well, I couldn't care less.
That's the get out, though, isn't it?
And it is a get out, but also my big question, if anyone can answer this, is how exciting must it be to play a computer game with your earphones on and you've got your fucking joysticks there, but you're playing a game about walking around with your lesbian lover and having a kiss?
No, I totally want to play that.
How exciting must that be? I thought like Call of Duty was climbing mountains. You had a mission. You was climbing the mountain to get to the top of the castle and rescue them. And you had your machine guns. You got to choose your weapons and your bazookas. And you had jet fighters trying to kill you. No,
No,
or is that just me?
I think it's just you, mate.
In the shopping mall. Oh, let's play Frogger.
That's it.
Oh, pack
Look at that.
switched on. Like, Pedro made sure the electric. Oh,
You don't like frogs now, no? You don't like frogs?
No, I'm froggish.
Frogger.
I'm froggish.
You mentioned Frogger, but on our review, I commented that one of the more interesting parts of that episode is when they're playing Mortal Kombat. That was way more fun than the majority of the episode, because you know what?
Pick up on that, Randy.
There was actually an opponent. There was something opposing him. There was action. There was resolution. Right, and the character gets killed. That had elements of storytelling that the rest of this episode just did not have. So they could have.
So it turns out that The Last of Us has adapted Mortal Kombat better than what.
Yeah.
Okay, so I got a question. You talked about why The Last Man, right? So has anyone read A Boy and His Dog?
No.
Is that what they adapted into?
A movie?
The Road.
No, that's not from The Road, but it was adapted into a movie, and oh my gosh, I can't think of her name. A redhead. She was married to the star in Miami Vice, one of the stars there.
Randy, you can't say redhead now. You can't say that.
What is the appropriate term?
Oh no, ginger in England. It's ginger.
Strawberry blonde.
Okay.
Yeah.
An actress whose hair is reddish. Okay. Melanie Griffith. She's in the movie.
Yes.
Okay.
But the book is really interesting. So you were talking about why The Last Man, and that so Boy and His Dog kind of looks at that issue in a different way, and they did it very successfully, very appropriate for science fiction. I mean, I don't want to tell you the big reveal. I just will say
novel of that adaptation of that as well, Randy. I'm sure Heavy Metal, when it was going, the magazine, not the music genre.
Right.
I'm sure they done a collected edition of that.
Yeah, it's an interesting story, and I recommend the book. You get to the end and you're like, oh, really? Oh my
That
gosh.
was one of the classics, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's a classic in science fiction. It makes you think, and that's why The Last Man could have been if they weren't politically messaging, I feel.
Oh yeah, well, the graphic novel didn't go there, but they did, and it didn't get picked up for series 2. So all those, but to be fair, I mean, there must have been people that followed it. There must have been a half dozen or so, but they're going to be really disappointed because obviously the first series just ended and it did not, and they was begging to be picked up because they needed to tell more stories of lesbianism, and which is fine if there are engaging characters within that, which there were in the graphic novel. There were groups of, because that's the whole idea of it. The whole graphic novel, for volumes of it, I've got volumes of it there. I don't know, 3. There's a lot of issues in each one.
It's got a whole shelf.
There's a lot of issues in each one, but they are whole groups of just women getting on with it, but in an interesting sci-fi storyline. And just this guy, and he's obviously got a gas mask on some of the time, and he's got a hat on some of the time, or a hoodie on some of the time. So if it's ever a bit like what was the Clive Owen sci-fi movie with Michael Caine?
Children of Men.
Yes, The Children of Men. That's another one that goes down this route about, you know, the human race is dying out and they find a pregnant woman. Love it. I love that trope. Love that trope. We weren't well off track there. Thanks, Randy. It's not me.
You know, it's what I do best.
Yeah. I think, well, unless anyone else has got anything. What did Tayters? You was a bit quiet there.
No, I agree with Liz. We spoke in the week about it, and yeah, I agree with Liz. It was just you could have condensed that down into snippets and peppered it through the whole season. It's just a waste.
So what are we kind of agreeing that could have been a 10 or 15 minute something?
You could have done that story in the adverts. That's it.
No, it just sounds like no one's got a lot of time for this.
I wonder if the shares in Mortal Kombat's gone up since that episode.
Yeah.
I noticed the prices of the original game going up on eBay. With the big cassettes you had to put in.
That's it.
I must admit that was the only point in that episode where I thought, oh, I haven't played Mortal Kombat in a while.
Yeah.
It kind of woke you up, right?
Yeah, I was like, oh, okay, I remember this.
The only thing that was missing from that scene was where they're doing all the joysticks and the wassets and their hands touch. Zzz, like electric, where their hands touch. That's the only thing that's missing, where there's a moment they look at each other. Just hammer it home, lads. Hammer it home.
That's in next week's episode.
Yeah. Electricity when their little fingers touched on the joystick of love playing Mortal. Anyway, I'm gonna go there.
Yeah, stop.
Right, come on. More Pedro. Mandalorian, episode 1. Tayters, you must kick this one off.
Oh man. I know what you want to say. It was amazing. It was brilliant. It was everything I wanted it to be. I told you my gripes. And they were tiny little gripes.
So what
Pirates.
You
That was it.
can't say that I spoke to Liz about Last of Us and I spoke to you this week about Mandalorian and then just go, all
Well,
right.
I'm just saying. So the only gripe I had.
No,
with
tell
that,
the gang. Come on,
Right.
Tayters,
the
tell
only gripe I had with that, I don't know what anyone else thought. I thought was very well done, but
Tell us what you enjoyed first, to be fair, Tayters. Let's kind of balance it out.
everything else but the pirates.
Arr, avast ye,
Avast.
avast ye, Mandalorian.
No, it just was Star Wars. I don't know what I can't give you more than that. It was Star Wars.
These two
Star
guys
Wars.
nailed it actually in their review. I don't know which one of you it was. Randy and Amber in their review. I don't know which one of you it was, but said it felt like Star Wars again.
Yes, that's it exactly, and it was.
Yeah,
it was.
What was your gripe again?
The gripe was the pirates.
What
Just
about them?
because,
go on. Why?
again, it just coming from Clone Wars, coming through Rebels, watching what the pirates are meant to be, to see what they put on this, I just felt like they had copied Pirates of the Caribbean.
In what way?
What I saw.
Pirates be?
Eh?
So what should the pirates be? What are you saying?
Well, the Weequay pirates were in
with so the pirates in this. I mean, I thought they were pathetic, but from your point of view, why weren't they Star Wars pirates then? Why were they?
Well, again, following from what I'm sure there's lots of pirates across the whole Star Wars galaxy. I'm sure there's lots.
The Jawas are pirates.
Jawas are pirates. Yeah, Jawas are pirates. But the pirates that suit that, what we saw, there was one there, was a Weequay. Proper pirate species, if you want to call them that. I don't know.
What one was that?
He was standing right in the doorway. He got shot. Not the one with the funny nose. Yeah. Not the one with the funny nose. One of the
You're
referencing
Hondo,
yeah.
aren't you?
Sorry?
You're referencing Hondo, aren't you?
Yeah, Hondo and Naka. Yeah, from like I say, Clone Wars right through to Rebels. That's what that Pirates was. But all I saw, like I said, was just bad copies of Pirates of the Caribbean, even down to the Pirate King.
Solo a pirate.
Eh?
Han Solo was a pirate.
No, he was a smuggler.
He was a what?
Smuggler.
Yeah.
He
Oh,
doesn't hold up other ships.
that's a sub. Is that a subgenre? Of
Yes, yeah. He was a subcontractor to
He was
pirates.
subbing it out.
That's it. But no, even down to the Pirate King. I just saw Davy Jones.
Oh,
Pirates of the Caribbean. It
the
was just
monkey.
like that. And when I say that's a small gripe, that's a small gripe. 98% of that episode was spot on.
98%.
Yes, definitely.
Oh, Randy, you can follow that because you scored it 9 out of 10.
I loved it, yeah, because it did feel like Star Wars. It felt like the original Star Wars, except that we're seeing a different place, right? And that's what you want in a beloved series. You want it to feel like the series, but we want to see some new places. Go some new places, and we did. We see the rebuilding of the city, and I'm not remembering the name of the city, right?
Navarro.
Yeah. So for me, that just took me back to watching Luke and Obi-Wan walking down the street of the town closest to where Luke was raised, right?
Mos Eisley.
Yeah, Mos Eisley. To me, it felt like that, except it's a different place. And yay, I get to see different aliens, right? I get to see different landscape. And that was what I loved about Star Wars. And I'm seeing it again. And so, yeah, I'm super excited about it.
That was cool about this episode, which I will say without taking the piss, to see more robots and aliens.
Yeah.
This is kind of, and I know, Amber, I think you definitely did say it in your review about the crocodile at the beginning. Where rather has seen it more alien, and I agree with you about the Rancor and the Sarlacc pit and all that.
Yes,
where there are realms we can go to. That's been my big beef with dismal Star Wars from the beginning. But this episode, I think he's bringing it back. At least there was that collection. I mean, there was even a scene in the market where there was either an alien or a robot thing and chopping up and all that.
Well, that chef droid was in Book of Boba Fett.
Yes.
That chef droid was from Book of Boba Fett. But that scene specifically, when we come back to Navarro and you see the progression within that city from season 1, where they're cooking the Kwokin monkey lizard thing. They're actually cooking it on a spit. And in this season, they're running around free in the trees. And, you know, the whole city has got better. Everything is improved. The bar's turned into a school.
I can't believe Dismal allowed that. There must be vegans at Dismal going, we can't have alien species being cooked.
We can't have fictional animals.
Oh my God.
So last night, I happened to see a short instructional, it's a TED Talk and on writing, and it was called the 2+2 model for writing. And what this episode of season 3, episode 1 of Mandalorian really follows it. And what they talk about is you need to allow the story to pull people forward. And so that's what we do. So we see this city, we've seen it in Book of Boba Fett, right? And it was a place that was suffering and it looked like it was dying. And now it looks vibrant and it's alive. And we see characters from there. And we see those monkeys in the trees and free and everything, right? We see progression. So that is letting the story and the development of the story tell us rather than them sitting there and explaining a lot of stuff to us. We see it and it's much more powerful storytelling. So they did really, I feel, a great job of that. I mean, I was so happy to see the city thriving and that we have at least a part of the galaxy that is moving in the right direction. And that gives us hope and we can cheer for the good guys because they are doing something that makes an impact. So yay, and let's see more of it.
You're right.
One little detail I did like was the 2 robots at the back of the cape.
Yeah, carrying card. Yeah.
When old Creed comes out and they've got his little cape, these 2 little robots and the little wheel. I love all that. And that's what I think you 2 said in your review that makes it Star Wars, which did, like I said at the end of my thoughts are, I really enjoyed Andor. And I enjoyed this on a different level. They're kind of equal at the moment. The only reason being, Mando was so Star Warsy. Andor wasn't really.
No, the one thing about Andor that I didn't get.
Mando, but story-wise, at the moment, episode 2, if they're just going to walk and talk around a bit, I've got to say, and you've got more characters going, avast ye. There's only so much I can dial back.
Well, I think that this was an episode. If I was going to walk away from this with a big complaint, but I gave it a pass.
Come on, Amber. Yeah, you're on my team.
Because it's a first episode. Is that we saw the start of several potential journeys, but we didn't actually see much progress in them. And it kind of felt like we were jumping from one problem to the next rather than
like you said, a side quest.
Yeah, rather than one tying into the next. So we need to see some serious progress happen in episode 2. So if you remember in season 1 of The Mandalorian, it was the introduction of a new problem, and then that problem is solved, and it kind of leads to the next problem. That was one episode. New problem is introduced, that problem is solved, but it's helping me get to the next episode. In this one, we had like 4 different problems.
Which is the setup for drama. At the end of the day, your objective is stalled. You know, you've got the drama comes from overcoming the obstacles to your objective.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Basic storytelling.
But what we want to see is in episode 2, we need to see that the next step was taken and that all of these are really bound together, like that they're not separate side quests that, you know, each leads off in their own direction. They all have to converge into the finale of this series, because otherwise you've just got a bunch of side stories that instead of one new side story being introduced and concluded in each episode, you've got like 4 side quests and they're all moving independently, but you know, a little bit at a time in each episode. I think that's going to get very slow and boring, because we'll see similar stages of progress in each of those stories in each episode. So I'm hoping they'll focus on just one per episode and really make some ground, gain some ground on each of them.
I think Amber, I think you're slowly coming over to the dark side with me, aren't you?
I always give an easier pass on, you know, first episodes, because it's the first episode. Yeah. I always give every show a pass on the first episode, saying, okay, let's see. Yeah, but if we see this as a pattern, that these are 4 unrelated quests that just happen to be moving at the same time moving forward, it's going to be very unsatisfying at the end.
It's going to be brutal.
See, I just saw, I mean, I saw it as just a reintroduction into what we've seen before.
And I really
purely and simply because of the time that we've been away from it.
Yeah.
Well,
you know, we've been a long time away from Mando. So
that's where it gets my most glorious extra points, to be fair. And I think I don't know if I spoke to Randy or Amber or Liz, but someone coming in, I think it was Randy actually, or it might have been on a group chat, where I said, back in the old days, every episode of every series would be someone's first episode, or someone's first issue, or even a book. Like you would jump into a book series, and it would be an ongoing series with this character in it, maybe James Bond, just off the top of my head. But the first chapter or 2 would bring you right up to date.
Yeah.
You could have just bought that one book or that one comic or watched that one episode of TV with your fish and chips and then gone down the pub and never watched the series again. Or you could have watched it 3 weeks later, or picked up another issue, or picked up the 10th book in the line. But and I think, Amber, you're going to know what I'm you can be more eloquent about what I'm trying to, the point I'm trying to make, is that editors, the editorial team would make sure that new viewers or readers would be right up to date with the Marvel, when I used to try and send my stories off to Marvel 20 odd years ago, the Marvel, within the first 6 pages of every issue of a Marvel comic, you had to be aware of what happened last issue, what all the main characters' superpowers were, and what was going to happen this month in this issue. The setup for the story, within 6 pages out of 32. Yeah. And I think that brings a what's the word I'm looking for? A discipline to your storytelling that I think is getting lost until Mandalorian series 3 episode 1, where I thought, hold on a minute, this could be someone's first episode, and you don't have to, because me and Tayters have had conversations where he said, oh, this was so good, nearly said my real name then. This this is so good because episode 5, series 2 of this, and episode 1, and do you remember that one? And do you remember that film? And I go, no, Tayters, no, it was boring because I didn't understand any of that. I didn't get it. I didn't watch that. Didn't get this. But for me, Mando, this episode scored extra points for me because I thought, wow, you could. Because I've forgotten Bob Wham in Book of Boring Fett and Mando. I've kind of been in and out of it all, but I was kind of right back in it. And what the right advice said about it was so Star Warsy, I thought, yes, it was. I did love it.
Yeah, but they still managed to, for people like myself that have seen all that other content,
there, like the space
they're
novel.
still tying in. Yeah, that's it. The Purgils, bringing those in, the little Easter eggs that you're seeing bit to bit. It's just,
Hi, Mr.
yeah.
Narwhal. Hi, buddy.
No, very good.
Right.
No, but I think overall, I think Liz has got a lot to say.
Yeah, I have.
Go on, Liz.
So I've watched it twice. The first time I watched it.
That all? Just twice?
Yeah, twice.
Oh,
I watched it twice. Right. So the first time I watched it, and still the second time I watched it, I'm like you guys, yes, Star Wars. This is it. I love it. But, and this is where the but comes in. Where it is that inner child that's come out of me, and where it is the fact that I'm a fan of Star Wars, you give me enough Star Wars and get me that feel of Star Wars, I am going to love it.
Yeah.
However, that masks a lot of very bad storytelling underneath, because I'm not focused on that, because I'm loving Star Wars. You're showing me space pirates, you're showing me Mando, you're showing me some funny bits with Grogu, you're setting up where I think it's going to go within the lore of Star Wars, all that sort of stuff. But a few things I want to point out just quickly, and this was on the second view, and I've sort of noticed it on the first view, and I came away from the first view and going, oh my God, amazing. But I've got a few little things that are bugging me. So I went back and watched it again. So the first time I watched it as a Star Wars fan, the second time I watched it analytically. And when you do that, you notice a lot of stuff.
Oh,
so
do that. It's painful.
Yeah. So the baptism at the beginning. So the baptism at the beginning, the young Mandalorian is standing in the waters of this lake on this planet, and he's knee deep in the water. The size of that crocodile turtle thing, how deep is that drop off in the water? How deep is that drop off in the water?
Vertical.
Like,
Yeah,
it's ridiculous.
Just quickly before you carry on, I've just one interruption. I think we all thought that was a flashback to Mando being.
Yes.
Yeah.
It was, yeah.
But Randy, I think, and just quickly, I think Randy, it made me think in your review where you said about the religious aspect of it. I think that was quite nicely done. How they did that in the water, because that's basically now that's Mando's quest.
Yeah,
he wants to go into the waters of Mandor under the sea with the Little Mermaid, whatever it is he's got to do. That's his quest now, but they've shown us that. Thank you, Dismal, because they kind of set that up in that quasi-religious way. I did think that was nice.
It was
right, because bathing in that is very much like a baptism. And what is a baptism? You are born again. You are born afresh, right? And I'm not wanting to pull in religion. I would just say that this is a mystic society, so I feel that it works. You don't have to really get into religion, but it is pulling from like the Knights Templar, right?
Like the Knights Templar. Yeah. Oh, let's not go down there.
So this is a story. This is a story of redemption, which is one of those pillars that I always talk about, one of those core values that if you have that, people are going to be satisfied with how that plays out. So Mando's got a quest to be reborn and back into Mandalorian society. So that's a quest we can understand and we can be fully behind it.
One quick question before we go back to Liz. Do you think he's going to bathe naked and keep his helmet on? when he
Oh,
when he gets, is that just me?
probably just
just you.
you. Yeah.
That handmade helmet for the boy at the beginning, is it going to grow with his head? Is it
That Beskar is special.
Beskar? Is he going to have a stretchy helmet?
It'd just be a big body and a little head.
I'd like to address the point
I know
Liz
you've been
made.
thinking about these questions, Amber. Anyway, Liz, come on, you carry on. Come on.
So,
Wait, I want to address the point.
oh, hang on.
Okay, so and I noticed that too. So this croc turtle thing, right? If you actually look at that scene again, you see the ripple as he's getting ready to come up out of the water. Well, he's so long that actually the amount of space between shore to shore, I mean, where was he that he,
Yeah.
he can do that? I mean, if you look at it, it's like he appeared out of nowhere. And like you said, how deep is that? Yeah, that just
dial down, guys. Dial.
Exactly.
Dial it.
As I say,
your eyes got to roll to the back of your head.
As I say, on second viewing, you get a little bit more analytical. So the other thing I noticed, so I've said it before, and I've said previously, Tayters is one side with Mandalorian. Hog's always been the other side. I've always been the one in the middle. And I've always said that it feels like a computer game. It's always been side quest, side quest, side quest, all the way through. IG-11 does not make sense to me in any sort of way, right? So IG-11 was in season 1. He was originally hunting down Grogu.
No, you can't call it a he.
Right.
I've got to be a bit non-binary. You know what I mean?
It's a robot.
Just to stay monetized, guys. Come on.
Right. So he's originally hunting down Grogu, and Mando takes him out. He then gets reprogrammed, becomes the protector. He then self-detonates in a pool of lava that takes out a load of stormtroopers. There should be nothing of him left. But let's just go with the fact that there is some of him left. His armor is so strong, there's still some of him left. So Mando comes back to Navarro. He doesn't know that there's a part of IG-11 left, so he sees a statue, but he sees it and goes, I want that. And then he gets him on the table, and he's reverted back to his old programming. And his decision for wanting IG-11 is because he trusts that robot. Well, he trusted it when it was reprogrammed.
No, it's the only robot he trusts.
Yeah, it's the only robot he trusts, and he trusts it because it's been reprogrammed. So he trusts the reprogrammed version of IG-11. IG-11 gets up, starts trying to chase him around the room. Then they drop a statue on its head, which crushes its skull.
So it's even... It was Terminator. It was
proper Terminator, right? So it crushes its skull. So that part of IG-11 survived the lava and the explosion, but a statue falling on it is going to crush its head easily. Now you've got even less parts to work with because you've just destroyed the head. Now you're taking it to Babu Frick and his mates, and they're saying, "Oh, we need a memory card."
Who?
So Babu Frick, the little dudes, right? So now you're taking it to them and saying,
them.
Yeah, but you're taking it to them and you're saying, right, we can't. They're saying we can't fix it because we need a memory card. So you've got only a little bit of the body, and you've got a new memory card. It's not just going to be the same fucking robot. It's like Trigger's broom.
Yeah, it is. It is that.
Trigger's broom.
Have you guys in America seen Only Fools and Horses?
Our global audience won't understand that Only Fools and Horses reference.
Okay, so in Only Fools and Horses is a character called Trigger, and he gets an award from the local council. He's like a road sweeper.
He's not the cleverest guy. He's not the cleverest guy on the planet.
And essentially, he gets an award because for services to the community. And he goes, I've had this same broom for the last 20 years. It's had 14 new handles and 10 new heads. And they go, well, it's not the same broom then, is it, mate? This is what IG-11 is. It's just, and then he goes off to try and get this memory card, gets chased by pirates, then all of a sudden just forgets about the memory card and goes and visits Bo-Katan.
Yeah, that was
doesn't make sense.
Side quest. I thought that was Mandalore. I was like, oh, that's not so bad. Just some rain. And then I thought, is it acid rain? Like, but it turned out it was just this random planet he decided to stop at and talk to Bo-Katan. And why?
Well, and I think this episode, Oh yeah, of course you did. But I think this episode suffered
Who else has got the
majorly.
big headband like that?
This episode suffered majorly from Book of Boba
She
Fett.
looked marvelous in Battlestar Galactica, and she don't look like. She don't look great in
He
this.
looks like Bo-Katan in this.
Yeah.
I prefer her in Battlestar Galactica.
Well, yeah, you would.
But it suffered majorly from Book of Boba Fett, because in Book of Boba Fett, you've got Mando on his own after Luke's taken Grogu, and you've got him surviving. You've got him trying to learn how to use the Darksaber. You've got him basically being exiled from his clan, and then you've got the whole reuniting with Grogu. That should have been the opening of this season. That should have been the beginning of this season. Instead, we get a rehashed scene at the beginning in which the armorer's going, you have removed your helmet, you're no longer a Mandalorian. And Mando's going, well, if I bathe in the baths of Mandalore, I can be reinstated. And she goes, yeah, but the baths of Mandalore are destroyed. And he goes, but then he goes, well, what if they're not? And she goes, well, then if they're not, I've just told you, you go to the baths of Mandalore and you'll be reinstated. It's the most pointless conversation that we've already had. It's pointless anyway, and we've already had it. So they're literally, the only way to redeem yourself is to bath in to go into the waters of Mandalore. She says they're destroyed. He says they aren't.
He says they may not be. Doesn't say they aren't. He's not sure.
Well, they're not. We'll go then and have a look.
That's what he's doing.
Exactly. But we've had, if you're watching all of Mandalorian in order, including where Mando pops up in other shows, we've had that conversation already.
Yeah, I don't think no one's doing that though.
But this
We've had
ties
that
into
conversation.
what Hog is saying is that this was designed. It really has that feel of being an episode designed to introduce a new audience. I think you like. I didn't watch most of Boba Fett. I watched the episodes with the Mandalorian in it.
Yeah.
That was it.
It hurt, didn't it? It hurt.
Yeah.
That was a good shout, to be fair. But despite saying that, despite saying all the little plot points and all the holes that I've picked out of it, because some of it just does not make sense. Like, why would you want but why would you
Liz,
but why do you want IG-11 back? Why do you want IG-11? It doesn't make sense.
Taika Waititi, that's why.
Exactly. That's the only reason. That's the only reason. But despite all that, I still loved it because it felt like Star Wars, and it was Star Wars, and I can forgive it. And I can forgive it for all that stuff because I still enjoyed it.
Those exceptions, look,
and there was a ton of Easter eggs in that as well.
There was
so many.
Look, we're all nodding because we love Star Wars. But it's got to get to a point, and it did. Right, I'll tell you what. It gets to a point where we do all love it, I think. It came across in your video, guys, the right advice. And I said it about the aliens and what's, I do love this stuff. Look what I'm surrounded with, for God's sake. It started with my first viewing of that first film, like Randy said in your video. It was great when you said I went to wherever the cinema was in Phoenix, and you said like I was there for the first. I'd done the same in Romford, in Essex, where I live. And I was there at that cinema with me mate, watching Star Wars. And it blew your mind, and then you're gone. You're done.
Yeah.
And we're still all there. But so what I will say about Mandalorian is that it's not taking that for granted.
Right.
It's delivering what we want. We're kind of sitting there, we've all dialed it down, and we're sitting there going, gimme, gimme, gimme. Whereas my contempt for shows like Kenobi is that they take it for granted, and they shovel a big load of putu right down our gob. Right down our gob. But Mandalorian isn't doing that. Andor didn't do it. And Mandalorian isn't doing it.
No.
So I'm glad. I'm happy.
No, I do love it. I'm just saying that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not.
There is.
I'm going to stop.
There is issues, and I do love it, and I generally do really enjoy it. But when you look at it as a Star Wars fan, absolutely love it. When you look at it from an analytical storytelling point of view, none of it makes sense. And and I will turn that side off because I want to enjoy it.
And then if you watch the original movie and you watch it with an analytical mind, you can pull that story apart.
Not as much as this.
Star Wars.
Yeah.
Well, no, the
I
original
would
story
say
is
it's
actually
opposite.
relatively clean.
So going into from the original story, moving forward to Empire, it opens a ton of questions about the original story. That's what I'm saying. If you watch that, you can go back to New Hope. Oh my God, I just called it New Hope. You can go back to Star Wars and you can tear it to bits. But
what I'm saying is
where I love mind. You be entertained.
And that's what I'm saying. With this episode, I watched it twice. The first time watched it as a Star Wars fan, and I was thoroughly entertained, really enjoyed it. I had that little bit of nostalgia in my head of the feelings that I had when I previously watched Star Wars, etc. And I was becoming a very happy lizard. When I watch it with an analytical mind,
just let those feelings out.
Yeah, I can tear this apart.
Imagine doing a mall in a shopping mall in post-apocalyptic world.
But to take away everything pre-Disney, and with the exception of Rogue One, I can rip this apart like every other Disney Star Wars show.
Okay, I agree with Liz. I mean, I think what we need to really keep in mind is the environment that we are in now. So you're right. And when original Star Wars came out, if this came out, we would probably have a negative feeling. I mean, because even though it's being true to Star Wars, which we would expect, it's got some problems with the writing. But I think that we do have to make some allowance, because in the current environment in the entertainment industry, I mean, look at Velma, right? So let me just point Velma. None of the Scooby-Doo fans are happy about that. None of the, adults who like to watch cartoons are happy about that. So I think we just need to enjoy the fact that it does feel like Star Wars.
Dial it down. I mean, I kind of don't mean that in a horrible way. I just mean that for Star Wars, we just twiddle it down, don't we? And we make allowances for it, because again, even with robots, with C-3PO and R2-D2 going way back, and I know I'm getting a bit philosophical now, but that they don't work as robots, do they? If I'm gonna be like all the cool sci-fi dude, really? Those two robots don't work. Why is he saying, like, don't be stupid, R2, and slapping him on the head? What he can feel? He can feel the slap on his head? No, of course he can't.
It's fantasy. Star Wars is fantasy.
That's sci-fi fantasy that we've been introduced to, and it kind of was the original, wasn't it?
But just on a tangent quickly, so we've spoken about Last of Us this evening. We've spoken about Mando so far.
Good old
now, Last of Us is a series that's been adapted from a video game. Mandalorian is a TV show that could easily be adapted into a video game because of the way it's set up. So we're forgiving Mandalorian because we're Star Wars fans, but then we're criticizing Last of Us for the same thing, where they're doing side quests and showing us stuff that's not necessarily relevant. Instead of just getting us from A to B, with Last of Us, the criticism is that instead of getting us from A to B, we're going off here, going off there, going off everywhere. But then with Mandalorian, we've still got that element in it where he could just go straight to Mandalore right now and jump in the waters.
Yeah, but we're in episode 1.
But he could do that.
We are normal gamers.
But the story could be.
They have to combine at some point. These side quests have to mean something. They all have to be woven together in some way. And also remember this: The Mandalorian is a children's show written in a way that is appealing to adults. Yes, that is what it is, and that's what Star Wars was originally.
Just about.
And The Last of Us is supposed to be an adult story.
Yeah, it's supposed to be. Yeah.
All right, and to be fair, my complaint isn't the being sidetracked. My criticism most of the time is because they're introducing boring elements. So this last episode of Last of Us, was just boring. There weren't goals, there weren't obstacles, there weren't, all the elements of tension. That's where my complaint is. And just while we were talking about it, I mean, I suggested a couple things that could be very interesting. And, frankly, I think they would be sidetracked from the storyline in the game, but I still think they would be interesting and worth following. But they're just not doing that.
That makes sense. I just thought I'd throw it out there because I find it interesting that Last of Us is a game that's been adapted into a show where Mandalorian could quite easily be adapted into a game with the way it's been set up.
I think that's a lot to do with the culture that the writers and the creators, everyone involved, is growing up in, is maturing into or maturing from. And it's a very short. It's like getting back to Ant-Man, where the writer of that has come from Rick and Morty and some other lower down. And I know we've all got to start somewhere, but nothing gets this crop of creative talent. Firstly, needs more guidance. It needs more editorial oversight. They just can't. They just won't be. No one will allow themselves to be molded into something better. They come to these projects fully formed. So their first outing is Ant-Man and Quantumania or Mandalorian Series 1. And I know, like, Tayters loves Filoni and all that. I've got major question marks. Yeah, I don't know what that means, but
if you know, you know.
Yeah, and Filoni, he's come from, and you know, every now and again I've stumbled across an interview with Filoni where he says, "Oh yeah, I had a lot of interaction with Rian Johnson when he was doing that. His ascension from the animated realm into live action was via Rian Johnson and Kathleen Kennedy." And that makes a lot of sense now.
Yeah, learn how not to do it and then move forward.
Yeah, but
I get a question for Liz. All right. So, I mean, I like your idea. So what if we look at this first episode of season 3 of Mandalorian as a video game? And if you ask me, I think that's what it does kind of look like, because if I'm playing a video game, I have all these decision points, right? And in this episode, we have some decision points. Do we go after the pirates? Do we take the job as sheriff? Do we follow the quest of putting the robot back together? Do we go visit Bo-Katan and try to bring all the Mandalorians together? I think, and the one I think they should do is teach those Mandalorians how to fight those croc turtles, because they did a really bad job.
Oh, they fucked them up, didn't they?
No,
See, now, that's the bit I thought you would have loved, Liz. I'm sure you're related.
Yeah, that's a bit racist, to be fair.
No,
we exterminate them.
Taters. I never thought you'd be an alienist.
We lizards handle them a lot better than that.
Yeah,
we're progressive.
No. To answer your question, Randy, if that was a computer game, I'd be all over that. And I'm not trying to slat. I'm just trying to throw questions out there. I did enjoy it. I've got the analytical head on. If Mandalorian was a computer game, I'd definitely be jumping on that, and you could easily adapt it. I'd definitely be jumping on that.
And which one of those quests would you be pursuing first?
What would I be pursuing first? I'd be checking out Mandalore.
Okay, there we go.
I'd be on the pirate ship for sure.
I think I'd be putting the robot back together.
Okay. Prediction here. I got a prediction. I'm going to get that the robot's going to get put back together, and he's going to come back to Navarro and be the sheriff. And then
Mando?
Not Mando, no, because he's
Lando. Or whatever his name is, Creed.
Oh, that guy? No, he's the magistrate. He's not.
He's the high magistrate.
Yeah, he's already got a job.
Get that right.
IG-11.
So I think that the robot is going to get resurrected, and he's going to end up being the sheriff because he's a hero in Navarro already. So everyone will want him to be brought back as the sheriff.
These two little robots behind on his cage. Yeah, love it.
What I don't really understand is what is going to happen with Bo-Katan and this other planet where, okay, so I was a little confused. This planet is not, it's obviously not Mandalore, but it is a Mandalorian planet because this was an ancient castle that she's been rebuilding, or they've been rebuilding.
I thought it was just the castle. I thought it was just the Mandalorian castle.
I thought it was the whole planet.
It is the whole planet. Yeah, it's
What do you mean?
It's a Mandalorian planet. It's a Mandalorian planet. Yeah.
It's just not.
What? It's in the
same Mandalore
solar system.
Yeah.
Possibly.
Call it that.
I don't know.
Yeah. So you had
she's an apostate, right? Or something?
Yes.
So okay.
And that definition don't work. Anyway.
No, it doesn't work for her. But so I think she is going to eventually. I don't know what the Star Wars lore is, but if I was writing this, I would have her at some point rejoin Din Djarin, and we're going to go back to Mandalore together and come back into the fold, because what she's been doing is not working because she's alone and she's on this planet by herself. So I'm trying to figure out how they're going to weave these stories all together, right? Because otherwise they're just they're stories that have no relation to each other. Like, why are we resurrecting this robot? What does he really need this robot for in his quest to be rebaptized? Unless he's like, humans can't survive on Mandalore, so I'm sending the robot.
Right, so you've just nearly hit the nail on the head. Cool. So Mandalore basically essentially got nuked, by the Empire. They absolutely wiped out. Now, if you go back to Mandalore and he can't breathe, how's he going to know that? He's going to get there, take his helmet off, and die straight away.
So he's going to shove
the robot,
his friend, out the
robot who doesn't need air or can. Yeah, exactly.
So the only way I can think that they're going to tie in Bo-Katan is that they will, in order for their religion to survive, if you cannot introduce people into the religion without having this opportunity for redemption, except on the planet of Mandalore, they have to relocate. If it's really uninhabitable, they have to move somewhere else.
You're doing the same as Liz, Amber. You're doing the same as Liz. You've got your analytical head on, and you're applying. You're applying logic to it.
That's fine. So
none of us can do that. None of us can do that with Mandalorian, with Star Wars. We can't.
No, you're right.
Because
Mandalorians are not just on one planet; they occupy several places.
Right. So why does he have to be baptized on Mandalore?
Exactly.
Because that's what the religion says. The religion basically says those are the sacred waters that you need to be in to get forgiven all your sins.
Oh, all right. Tayters, question.
Go on.
Question. So why is the little boy at the beginning of this episode being baptized in that waters with a crocodile in it?
See, that was a big problem that I had. I was like, okay.
Can't Mando just get out, take all his clothes off, and bathe in that and be redeemed?
I don't know. Maybe this is new Mandalorians. I ain't got a clue. That bit is still to be answered.
What I'm saying is, if we start applying logic, we will just tie ourselves up in knots and become frustrated. In a way, it's just like I think it's where the point is: how much white, dry, flaky poo do we lick?
But who's to say that kid in the future?
Until we've had enough, because who's come around in his spaceship, blown the crocodile up, and said, "Look, well, you're going to bathe the kid in it. If this is the new Mandalore, because our original planet is, and I am applying logic, by the way.
Yeah.
If our planet's been poisoned and bombed by the Empire, mate, we've got to, like Amber said, we've got to relocate. We've got to do something. It's not just me that wants redemption. There must be loads of Mandalorians.
But then do you have to be baptized in the waters that you was originally baptized in?
I don't know.
There we go.
Start applying logic. But
so if that kid has transgressions in the future, he can go back to that lake. And that's where he originally got baptized. Therefore, he's getting baptized again.
What if all that crocodile's mate come back?
I was about to say he's going to have to battle the crocodile babies.
Again, yeah, exactly. Yeah, they're coming back for revenge.
Their short little arms.
Yeah.
Kill me, Dad.
I must admit, what I want.
It's like Quantumania all over again.
I must admit, what I'm intrigued by
Another
is
Dismal Miners franchise.
I kind of want him to get back to Mandalore as soon as possible, redeem himself, get the Darkstable, start getting the clans back together.
I want to swing
Because
it around, wave it.
wave it all around. But I want to see with the different clans. So Mando's clan, the Watch, is the most loyal to the original religion, where they
Actually,
don't remove
Mando's
the
got his own clan now. You know that, didn't you?
Yeah, he's a clan of 2 with Grogu.
Clan Mudhorn, yeah.
Yeah,
Is it?
but
Yeah.
overall, he still follows what the Watch says.
No. When did that happen?
When he got the sigil on his shoulder of the Mudhorn, him and Grogu became Clan Mudhorn.
But what I'm saying is,
When did that
he's
happen, though?
Yeah, that
season
happened.
1.
The armor.
Ooh,
gave it
Season
to him.
2.
Season 1,
was
season
it
2.
season 1 or 2? It was either way. It
Where
was
he-
one of those.
But what I'm saying is, with the different levels of different Mandalorians from different clans, how they adopt that religion, like Mando's lot don't take the helmets off, the other lot do. It'd be interesting once he does get them back. I kind of want to see an episode where if he's ruling Mandalore, do you follow what he does? Do you do your own thing? I want to see that little, like, almost political bit. How far do we push the religion?
Well,
Or do we not push it and let everyone crack on?
See, this is
I'm
where
intrigued.
Bo-Katan is an interesting character.
Exactly. And that's where the difference is going to come.
Bo-Katan was part of Death Watch. Bo-Katan was part of Death Watch right up until Darth Maul took over Mandalore and became Mandalore. Then she left Death Watch and tried to join with her sister, Satine, who was Mandalore at the time, but a pacifist Mandalore.
I wish they could have found a better name than that.
What, Mandalore?
Yeah, no, Death Watch.
Death Watch.
It's a bit negative. It's not very. It's not a very positive name.
I think that's the reason why Bo-Katan is in this season. I think that's the reason why Bo-Katan is in this season, is purely for the debate with Mando about how to unite everyone and what are we going to do with United Mandalore moving forwards. Are we going to make sure everyone keeps their helmets on? Are we going to let them take it off? Are we going to ditch the old ways? Are we going to adopt the old ways? That will be the more interesting stuff for one episode. And then we move on to whatever the big bad is.
So Bo-Katan's sister was, like I say, she was a pacifist leader in Mandalore. And she tried to get rid of the old religions, the old ways, to which Death Watch were severely opposed. So Death Watch were run by a character called Pre Vizsla. And it was his ancestor who actually made the Darksaber. He was a Jedi Knight. He was the first Mandalorian Jedi Knight, created the Darksaber. That's why the Darksaber became a symbol of ruling.
Voiced by Jon Favreau as well, isn't
it? That was Pre Vizsla, yeah. Voiced by Jon Favreau, yeah. So, I think. Sorry, go, Amber.
Oh no, I was just gonna say that it just all has to be tied more closely together by the end of this story. And I know that, yeah, I agree with you, Hog. You do have to kind of shut your brain off, and I wouldn't say off. You turn it down a little bit, because
just dial it down. Like,
it's not meant to be complex. However, if you have side quests that are not related or coming back to the main quest, it will feel like a waste, like we're seeing in The Last of Us. Like, think about the original 3. The stuff that was going on with Han Solo was very much related to everything going on with Luke, because Luke, goes and confronts Vader in the second movie because he's on his way to go and save Han Solo. And then, the rescue of Han Solo is the beginning of the third film. And then, everything that he did with Yoda is tied into his relationship with Obi-Wan Kenobi, which is tied into his relationship with his sister Leia. It all eventually ties in very intricately, and it's not
Everything's tied into the Ewoks.
Yeah. It's not what I would call masterful, but it doesn't feel like a waste, No. I mean, what was the point of getting to know Han Solo in the first movie? Well, it was because he comes back and saves Luke's butt, and then that allows Luke to blow up the Death Star. It all comes back.
In a way, though, Amber, you're saying, like, about it being simple, but George Lucas, with those first 2 films, or let's just say with that first film, I don't know what you know. We can go into the ideals he had for this overarching, 9-episode thing.
Mhm.
But within that first film, he really, really, really went back to basics
He kept everything relevant.
of storytelling. And my God, the hero's quest, and just set up an intention and an obstacle. An intention and an obstacle within the classic tropes of what whoever it was, Ecclestocles, who said that there's only 9 elements of storytelling, man, boy meets girl, and blah blah blah. I'm sure you I know you and Mandy know what I'm talking about. Obviously I don't, but
Got it.
it is those basics of storytelling, and he just went he honed it in like that, like the tractor beam, and made it really simple. But the struggle we had to bring that vision, so the struggle we had, and eventually, and his mates had to help him out and that to do deals and to get this film, there's a hairy, the Wookiee, Chewie, like, really, as he explained it to as Lucas was explaining it to Scorsese and Coppola, and they're saying this ain't gonna work. We've just done Godfather and we've just done Taxi Driver, and you're gonna do Star Wars, really? But he'd honed it right down.
He knew the rules. He understood the rules of storytelling very well, and I think it was Tayters who was saying that was it you who was saying that these guys are coming into making these films and they're fully formed, like they've never done anything like this before, and yet they're coming in saying we're masters. And that's not what you had in the old days. There was very rare opportunities to make movies, and so the people who were putting forward the money to make these movies made sure it better be a tried and tested method, and you better pull it off well. This was very experimental. Star Wars, the first 3 movies. However, it was old, tried and tested storytelling, and there was no waste. There must be a ton of cut scenes, and I've seen a few of them that didn't make it into the final film because they knew if we waste too much time, if we sidetrack too much, people will lose interest. And you have to be willing to say, I didn't produce, 200 minutes of perfection. We have to reduce it down to 90, or whatever. So
when you rewatch that first film, I don't know about you lot, but that cracks along with the storyline.
Beautifully.
That cracks along so quickly.
Yeah.
You imagine that storyline now arriving on a table, an executive at Dismal Minus. They are not just going to do a series out of that. That's 25 episodes straight away, plus the side quests. That is, which we get now, which is the Kenobi side quest. We get the Mandalorian, but they've done a 90-minute film, and there was so much in it. Which I know we was going to talk about the Bad Batch, but just quickly getting onto the comics.
I was literally about to say that, man, because you forced my hand on them graphic novels.
Yeah,
so I'm glad you did, because talking about just storytelling, just quickly,
the story content that gets condensed down into 5 or 6 issues, like 32 pages of a story. Wow, that would be easily 26 episodes or something. They stretch one story idea. That idea that you apply your storytelling to now, and it's not just Dismal. It's mostly Dismal because they're so big. But it's everyone. It's Amazon. It's just look at the content they have in each episode of whatever story they're telling. Mostly, not 100%. Wow, they stretch one idea out across 8 episodes, and they're done. And we just sit there thinking, oh yeah, something's going to happen.
So you mentioned the graphic novels. So Hog pulled my hand on it. He was like, mate, you need to check out these graphic novels, and he's done it in some of his reviews. We're talking about Mando, and still stand by it. I do love it, despite what I've said. I do love it, and I think it was awesome. But my best Star Wars fix I have got recently is from the graphic novels. So there's an Obi-Wan Kenobi graphic novel. It's just one mini series, all condensed into a graphic novel. And that was my best Star Wars fix I've had in years. It felt like Star Wars, it looked like Star Wars, and it gave me a good story. And it's the same with the Darth Vader ones they're doing at the moment as well. I've got the first 5 volumes of that, read it all, absolutely loved it, and it was amazing. If they could bring the storytelling from the graphic novels, get those guys in to do the shows, we've got that high standard of Star Wars again that doesn't rival the original trilogy, because you're not going to be able to rival that, but is as close as you can get. Bring those writers into Disney. Bring them in.
The thing they're doing with this latest run of comics is they're basing it all in the original trilogy, mostly. They've done a couple. I've got a Poe Dameron run there, which is a bit like the Rogue Squadron. But other than that, they're basing it on all the original characters. There's a run of Han Solo and Chewbacca.
So they're not running into the extended universe stuff?
Every now and again.
Right.
But
like the Darth Vader ones set
it's almost
between,
like they're trying to avoid it.
like the Darth Vader ones set between Empire and Return of the Jedi.
Yeah.
It's wicked.
Did you ever get into the extended universe stuff? Any of that? Like going back to Mandalore, did you ever go back to the Tong? Eh?
What, in the comics?
Yeah, in the comics, yeah.
No,
They go right back to like 24,000 BBY, back to the original species that were Mandalorian.
That what, the Old Republic?
Yeah, long.
Whatever they call it. No.
Yeah, before the Old Republic.
Yeah, I don't
yeah.
know if I'm too bothered about that.
It's hard. It's hard reading, because it's like just keeping up with the timeline is hard. But yeah.
Why did you?
I read. I didn't read all of it. There's a lot there, but I've been through some of it. Yeah, I say right back to the original Mandalorians, but yeah, I didn't go all the way through. It got too much.
But they've got some good comic writing talent. Latest stuff that is using all the original characters. So from the first 3 films, or let's say the first 2. Well, no, actually the first 3, because they're doing an Ewoks series now.
The She-Woks.
No, I'm writing that. Don't
Oh, you're writing the She-Woks.
And I'm going to do the artwork as well. No, but they're using mostly all the original characters in short miniseries, 5 or 6 issue arcs. Like Liz was saying, and I did direct into the Vader series, where it basically kicks off after A New Hope, where the Emperor comes up to him and says, "Mate, you fucked up there, didn't you? You failed me." And Vader has got to do a deal with Jabba the Hutt, and it's all kicking off, and he's got to go here and do a deal. But they're the little stories in between the cracks in the pavement. Do you know what I mean? They're the little, a bit like Rogue One. What I was what I enjoyed with Rogue One, it was that little story just slotted in just right there.
Yeah.
And it had a bit of to each side.
I'll say it again, Rogue One is still the best thing. Rogue One's still the best thing Disney Star Wars have ever done.
Yeah, at a beginning, middle, end. It really did. Yeah. The best thing since sliced bread. But it did have a beginning, middle, end, and you haven't got to watch anything else. You could enjoy it, or it could be your first film that you've ever watched. And I know that Amber and Randy spoke about there, and Amber's your journey with your the prequel trilogy and bunking off school and all that, and whatever it is. But that was your intro. But that means that you've got to catch up. We all want to catch up with. There might be books, there might be a series, there might be. It introduced us to the universe. The only thing that's worrying about the latest crop of crap is that if someone watches Kenobi,
and they judge the whole thing by that one,
yes, and that's where I think Mandalorian. I'll go back to that and keep it on for a change. Normally it's me that wanders off, but I still say that as a first episode, as an intro, it had the excitement. All right, I know we've applied logic to it, and the crocodile monster and the space narwhals and all the rest. But it was an exciting hour of television. It was intrigue. It was like, well, how does Grogu know, man, this bloke in the armor? And like, imagine it was your first episode. You just jumped in. You would want to know everything there is to know about the Mandalorian, Grogu, the narwhals, the crocodile, everything. The bird with a, you know, where does she work out? She's obviously goes to a gym because she's got the headband. You know, where does she do Pilates? I don't know. But whatever the modern audience craves. But I just thought that it did do the job of a first episode for everyone.
Yeah, it did. Yeah. It did, to be fair.
We're still saying we love it.
Yeah.
We picked it up. We're saying we still... Is it? Are you lot still watching Bad Batch?
Yeah,
yes.
I am. Yeah, I'm enjoying Bad Batch.
Go on, someone start that off.
It's a massive improvement.
Because there were two really, really, really good episodes.
Yeah, I mean, it's a massive improvement on season one. Season one, the first 5 or 6 episodes were pretty bad, to be fair, but then it built, and the season finale to season one was awesome. Season 2 kicked off really nicely. Episode 3 was a highlight. That was the Cody and Crosshair episode. That was an amazing episode. And then we had I think it was episode 7 and 8 was that the assassination bit that went on. So it was the political intrigue, and you had the Emperor turn up at the end of the second one. That
was great.
Oh, awesome. With the Bad Batch, I am enjoying it, and it is awesome. I just wish they condensed their seasons down a little bit, because you get some really good episodes, then you get some episodes that are just sort of and it's filler, and it's the same issue. It's the same issue that Clone Wars had as well. Like Clone Wars, I love Clone Wars. There's a 4-episode arc in Clone Wars in season 4 that I rewatched the other day. Actually, it's when with Ponkrell, when he takes over the 501st. That 4-episode arc is amazing, top quality Star Wars. But then you get about 3 or 4 episodes after that. There's nothing, absolutely nothing. I think what they're trying to do is they've got a run time to fulfill. They've got a quota of episodes they've got to do.
Yeah, that's it. I think they get stuck, and then you get the fillers.
I think if Bad Batch was 10 episodes for the season instead of 16, I think it would be on that next level above. But despite that, I am enjoying it. I do think it's good. I like the Wookiee episode, the Wookiee Jedi. Gunji. Gunji.
How long have I been saying? Let's go to the Wookiee homeworld.
Yeah.
And I'm sure it was either a book or graphic novel that went back there in the early days of when the Empire, and they was, it was a proper.
There's been some really good episodes there's been some really good episodes this season, and I've enjoyed it. I just wish there's no bad episode. Yeah, I really enjoy, or I kind of enjoy, and I just wish the ones where I kind of enjoy could just be pushed aside, and we just have the ones that we need, because there is a lot of filler.
The only thing that keeps making me laugh, that I'm enjoying about, I'm agreeing with you, Liz. This series has got better, and it's got a bit more adult. They're not just talking down to children every episode. But the little girl in it,
Omega,
the Aussie bird, going, there's, you know what I mean, mate. Like, that's so jarring.
What language was that?
That was Australian, mate.
Jesus.
Tayters, this is how we speak in Australia, Tayters.
Yeah.
So that's all your Australian subscribers gone.
That's it. You just pissed off a whole nation, mate.
I've got 0 subscribers to Australia. Actually, this is called out to Australia. Come on, me cobbers. I'll put another script on the Barbie for you. The dialogue, no,
We're
one
borderline racist now.
borderline. No, I've done that earlier actually. The race, I got that out of the way early.
Right, gotcha. Yeah, go
With Bad Batch, it's I don't know. The dialogue is shocking. I am enjoying this. This is an improvement. I think this latest series. There have been some good episodes, but that Australian voice actor for the little girl is so jarring. That's my first thing. And it is still so childish. I mean, episode 10.
I'm pretty sure she's a Kiwi, but
You've got the big geezer. Oh, yeah, all right. Potato, tomato. And what's the big bloke's name?
Wrecker.
Yeah, Wrecker, right. And I get it. I get what every character's presence is in the team and what their reason for being there is. And he starts off episode 10 by saying, I'm bored and I'm hot and I'm hungry. Hold on. How old are you? How that's what a 5-year-old child would say. And I don't know if it was Filoni that wrote that episode, but stop it, because they've done a couple of episodes with the assassin and the political intrigue where, yeah, obviously he's the dumb big brute, you know, that's not the brains of the party. It's Hunter or Thingy Bob.
Tech.
Yeah, Tech. And they've all got their parts to play, but then suddenly they do that, and I think, oh wow, why have you done that? Like, why would you? Who sits down at the typewriter and says, right, Wrecker says, I'm so bored and hot and hungry. Why would an adult say that? How can an adult write that?
They wouldn't sit at a typewriter either.
Why would it? Oh, thanks for spotting that. I thought someone picked up. I thought someone picked up quick. I was going to get my typewriter out. I was going to do it. Slam it down. Why would an adult writer write that line of dialogue for an adult character in a piece of fiction?
That's for kids.
If the whole story is about them cooling off and occupying themselves in some entertaining way, then it's totally relevant to the story.
Yeah, see, you don't know what you're talking about. Shut up.
What did he say? I'm hot and I'm
hungry.
I'm
hot
and I'm bored.
And
I'm bored, I'm hot, and I'm hungry.
Bored, hot, and hungry. So they need to find food.
They're stranded.
They're trying to find food. They're trying to
cool
off.
Not. They're fixing the machinery. They're fixing the machinery, and the little Australian girl is 2 minutes later going to solve the problems for everything.
Yeah, it's dumb.
Oh, you're on our side now, Tayters, are you? You're always on Amber's side. Now you're on our side now. She's called it dumb. No, of course you're not. Look. Oh. Anyway. No. Anyway, in all seriousness, no, Bad Batch has been so uneven. It might go back to like what Liz was saying, that stretching out the content, where they can do some good stuff, but they have to pad it out. I don't know.
Yeah, I definitely think it works better. It would work better on, say, 10 episodes, because we've had some really good episodes.
Stop aiming it at kids. Stop writing down to children. That's where Warner Brothers went wrong with their
aim at everyone.
With their Bugs Bunny, Daffy Ducks, and all that, with their cartoons. They went wrong because when you write down, children recognise straight away when you're writing down to them. They just want a story. They just want Roadrunner getting one up on Wile E. Coyote. They don't need explaining that Wile E. Coyote is a bad wolf and Roadrunner is awesome and he's when you write down to children, they see it straight away. But I don't know why Dismal can't step away from it. It's I think it's just a disease they've got. In both sides, Star Wars, I think they write down.
We've touched upon this. We've touched on this multiple times. So we've said about aiming it. We've spoken about aiming at demographics and stuff, aiming at everyone. But where some of the writing quality is bad, it appears like it's aimed for children. And I think that's the same thing that can be applied here. Okay, Star Wars, again, I know they've said it before that it was aimed at children and it's technically a children's show that adults can enjoy. But Star Wars as a franchise has predominantly been aimed at everyone. So keep doing that. Just make sure you got the writers that are skilled enough to be able to do that. If you haven't, that's when you get something that appears more dumbed down and something that appears like it is aimed at children.
Yeah, and it's the whole aiming thing. Until an algorithm come along, no one aimed anything at anyone. You had to tell a good story to entertain people.
Yeah.
As soon as an algorithm, as soon as groups of investors rely on an algorithm to tell them what works, all we get is a reboot. That's all you get is a reboot. Nothing new gets done because, and it's been shown that these conglomerates of where the money is. So the money's up here, and they say, right, we're going to invest in why they want to, I don't know, but they're going to invest in cinema or TV, whatever it is, all those platforms, media. They then go to algorithms that tell them what's going to work. And it isn't. The computer is telling them what's working, but what they're telling them is working is a reboot. And that is literally why we are getting live action reboots of old cartoons. Because an algorithm is telling the investors that don't care. They don't care. They're over there. They're up here. They're all over here. They don't care. They just want to be told by someone, what do we plough 100 million? Because it's a lot of money now, isn't it? What do we plough our dough into? A remake of Little Mermaid. Okay.
Yeah.
It's going to catch up with them soon.
What do you think, Tayters, about Batch?
No, I'm enjoying it. I'm enjoying it. Again, it's
what, The Little Mermaid?
Yeah, I loved it. I thought it was fantastic. They just need more crocodiles and Mandalorians.
Yeah. So where do we think it's going to go then?
Or Bad Batch?
Yeah.
Or The Little Mermaid?
No. Let's get back to Mandalorian. Let's get back to something sensible. Mandalorian. Do you think it's going to be good?
Hang
on.
You
hadn't heard what Tayters going to say about Bad Batch yet?
Oh, go on. Oh, sorry, Tayters.
Am I all right? Am I good? Yeah, right. Okay. No, I'm enjoying Bad Batch. Again, but it's riffing off of Clone Wars. It's riffing off the stuff that's came before. That for me is enough to keep me going. Like this last episode about the Zillo Beast, the clone of the Zillo Beast, going back to, I can't even remember what season it was of Clone Wars, and Palpatine's plans to use that to dominate. It's, I'm just looking forward to the next episode and see where it leads. I won't judge it until we get to the end. Then I'll judge it. And I've always done the same, and you know that. I'll wait for the story to play out, then I'll look back.
And that's the excuses that we and you have had our debates on in the past, where, and like I'm saying, this the Bad Batch has had some really good. They've done some really good stuff, self-contained episodes and all the rest of it, character-driven. Each character, it's like the Dirty Dozen in space. I love that bit. I love that aspect of it.
Yeah. And
then you'll get the dumb episodes. And that's when you jump in and say, oh, yeah, because that's from Clone Wars and it's the Godzilla from Godzuki.
That what I sound like?
Yeah.
Change my name to Julian.
Yeah, it's Godzilla, Godzuki never worked. It's Godzilla and Godzuki.
Wow.
I don't know why I rambled off on that. But, let's see. But overall, Andor, Mandalorian, and in the meanwhile, Bad Batch. I know, listen, you know I always take the piss, but Bad Batch, there's been more good episodes than bad. That stand alone as just a piece of entertainment in and of itself. I haven't got to watch 18 extended episodes of Clone Wars and Rebels, and
Just helps if you do, that's all.
third chapter of the second film and get the book of the novel of the comic. That's what they've got to kind of step back.
But that's kind of what you guys touched on earlier. So, for example, I do still think that Mandalorian fell down because of Boba Fett. What we saw in Boba Fett should have been the season premiere of Mandalorian. But touching on what you said, if you know the extended universe, you know all that, and you know about the space whales, I keep forgetting their bloody name. Purgils. If you don't know about that, okay, fine. But if you do know about it, when you saw Grogu looking at them in hyperspace, you're going, oh my God, it's them.
Yeah.
But if you don't know about it, you're like, oh, that's really cool. I'm intrigued.
Yeah, but it's what's that alluding to? That's
yeah.
the intrigue for me, is what's it alluding to?
Yeah, Ezra Bridger.
Yeah, Ezra Bridger, Grand Admiral Thrawn. You know, we've got Ahsoka coming back again. You know, we had the Morai in the town centre. On Navarro. It's just like
But again, that should be stuff. If you don't know about it, it doesn't take away from the story.
No, but it didn't, though, did it? Because it
didn't. And that's where the first episode done really well. It put these little bits in there. If you don't know, you don't know. It doesn't bother you. You just think, oh, that's cool. But if you do know, it gives that little bit of fan service, and that's something that I can praise this episode for.
Yeah, absolutely. But that's what I said. There's a lot in there for me, but there was a lot there for everybody.
But at the same time, it's fallen down slightly because you have to go and watch Book of Boba Fett to get to where we are now.
See, I don't think you do. I don't think you
have to do
either.
No, I don't think you do. I think you can. Yeah, I don't think you do. I think you can start at
season
3, episode 1.
And that's what I loved about it. The fact that conceptually, this could have been your first episode ever.
Yeah, it's a brand new journey, so that's why it works. It would have been nice to have the episodes from Boba Fett in Mandalorian, because it just, first of all, it feels, for those of us who love the Mandalorian, it feels like, oh gosh, now I have to go watch Boba Fett, which I didn't. I watched the first episode, said, it's trash, and then I found out Mandalorian comes back, and so I googled which episodes those were and went and watched just those.
You could literally do that. Yeah, you could literally do that.
You were doing reviews when Boba Fett was out, Amber. You would have had a lot to say about that.
I would have had a lot to say about Boba Fett, but yeah. It's one of those unfortunate things, but I think somebody brought it up in a couple of hogCasts ago that basically the Mandalorian was brought into Boba Fett in order to kind of save the show, right? So it's almost like Mandalorian had to take a hit for the sake of Boba Fett. But like Hog says, I mean, for the most part, this is, you don't really need most of that stuff. You just need to go, well, at some point, Grogu came back.
Yeah.
And somehow Mando got the Darksaber. So yeah, I guess.
But we're still applying what we know to it. As a first episode, and I know I've been banging on about it all the time, but as a first episode or an episode of TV, you could have just been flicking through, in the old days, flicking through the channels with your remote. And if you clicked on this and the crocodile come out the water, I don't know what's going on. There's a kid in the water and he's being baptized. Oh, wow. What? And there's his weird, like, alien cult. Now there's, what the fuck? Now a bloke's turned up with his spaceship with his little alien and he pops up in a little dome. On that level, that works so much better. If anything, being, there's 5 of us here, Star Wars fans from varying degrees, all the way back to the original. If anything, it worked better if you didn't know anything. They just worked on a level where you're just going, oh, wow, space crocodile. Now they're off to another planet. Navarro, and there's little robots that are picking up the cape of this bloke. Space pirates. Wow. Now they're off to another planet. Oh my God, he's getting ambushed. Oh, he's in a trap now and shit like fuck. And now what now? He's going down to a castle, Mandalorian castle. Who the Mandalorians? I don't know what they are. And this bird's sitting there. She's got the right hump, and she's only got a robot companion. My God, and it's over. And you're going, I'm spent. I can't wait for episode 2. And then your mate at school says they've done some films of all them.
Yeah.
They've done, and I know I'm exaggerating, you know, it's my style. I over exaggerate, but that's where I think the magic worked with that episode. And I know it really did. They seem to condense something down for me. You two said it in your review about the Star Wars feel. But that Star Wars feel with what they did in that episode, and it was all disjointed and it didn't really make a lot of sense, but did the first, you know, we're all saying we love Star Wars and all that, but somehow, I think with what the 5 of us are saying, I think that was kind of an episode of goodness, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
I think
absolutely.
So. If that got some new fan, you know, if you can sit someone in front of that, like a little mini, like a little Grogu, that just sit someone in front of it in their little dome and just say, what's that Purgill?
Yeah.
And it's that first episode. And they would be intrigued enough. That is enough to entice them right in. So I think Favreau, who wrote that episode? Does anyone know?
Favreau.
Yeah.
Favreau wrote the episode.
I don't think he's the greatest writer, but he's doing it.
Yeah,
I
definitely.
think about Kathleen Kennedy on his back. Once she's gone, that's going to be good. But keep someone on them. Get someone of editorial production value worth oversight above him and Filoni, because you let them go off on their own, and we are going to get, especially from Filoni.
Shut up!
I'm maintaining my overarching critique of Filoni is he writes childish content. I'm not saying it's crap. I'm saying, like, go and go and write Barney. Like, leave Star Wars alone and write.
Hey, we might meet him in a month. You can tell him.
Yes.
Oh, that's right.
Oh, that's going to be, apparently Star Wars Celebration is going to be Kathleen Kennedy's send off, isn't it?
Apparently.
Really?
Yes. Now that's going to be
I got an awkward party.
That's going to be with the ticket, because I'll be there going boom.
Yeah.
Boom. Yeah, that's off 10 years of wrecking an entire franchise, but she was allowed to do it, so it's not just anyway. So Star Wars, put your hand up if that's enough Star Wars.
Oh, we don't.
Who saw Ant-Man?
No,
yeah, I did.
I saw it.
Come on, you're going to be you saw it twice, Randy.
Yeah, I did.
Right, I think we need to strap ourselves in. I think this is going to be controversial. I think Randy's ready for a ruck.
I am.
Come on, Randy.
he scored it 9.8 out of 10.
It doesn't exist. 9.8 doesn't exist.
Yeah, you know,
that's what you thought.
I loved it. I thought it was great. And yeah, I am getting some flack. I had posted on someone else's site, and people are bagging on it. But me, it's got a story that follows through. Okay, and yeah, we can pick on stuff because, you know, frankly, there's nothing so perfect that you can't find someone who'll find a way to look at it,
to rewrite it.
To
rewrite
pick on it, to complain about it. I mean, so you're always going to get that. But for me, so here's some elements that I like. I mean, so the visuals. I mean, that the landscape, that land. I've been taken to another place, and it was foreign, and it was beautiful, and it was intriguing.
Do you think the CGI was crap? Because a lot of people were saying, I thought, because, you know, I have explain my view, and I wasn't that down on it as other Marvel movies, but I thought the CGI was pretty good. Did you?
I didn't have a complaint with it. I mean, I'm looking at all the landscape, and I'm looking at all the alien creatures and stuff, and I'm like, this is so cool. I could have done a movie. I mean, I could have sat in a movie that really we just focused lots on those cultures and this rebellion, and fighting against Kang, right? Not so much actually working with. I mean, they spent a lot of time on Kang. I would have liked to have spent a lot of time with the rebels and learn more about that and see more of that, right? I was totally pulled in and I loved it. And here's another one that I would like to point out. And I know that it's fashionable to bag on any of the Marvel stuff that's coming out. But I want to point out that at the heart of this is an adventure about a family of superheroes. And they, for the most part, get along. And I know I've heard some complaints like, well, that girl is not very nice to Scott. Okay, she's a teenage girl, and teenage girls have a tendency to be toxic. At least that's been my experience. I have two daughters, and in that age, they were toxic.
Not start talking about our daughters?
Huh?
Look, there's Tayters. I said, should we not start talking about our daughters right now? Because we could go on all night.
Okay, but my point is,
I know what you're saying, Randy. No,
in real life, my daughters were toxic at that age. Okay, so I'm watching a movie, and I'm not thinking like, wow, that is them social messaging or anything. I'm like, okay, that's a teenage girl, or some teenage girls fall in that category. But overall, this is a family. They're working together to solve a crisis, and I love that. Because right now, so much entertainment is not about that. It's not about families getting along, working together, and trying to do something good. So for me,
so it had heart. It had a heart to it.
Yeah, it had heart to it, and I like it. And Paul Rudd, he just cracks me up. I just really like him. I find him super likable.
Yeah.
And if I were to give a favorite scene, I actually have to split it to the beginning and the end. So we have mirroring there. And at the very beginning, we have Ant-Man walking down the street, right? And I love that.
No.
What?
Oh, that is.
You didn't like that? I loved it.
That is the most dumb crap. Oh.
Okay.
Anyway, go on.
For me, that's Paul Rudd at his best. That's what he does best. He's there. He's interacting with people. He's friendly. And at the end, the same thing. So maybe you don't like it. I like Paul Rudd. I find him fun.
Yeah, and it was fun. And like I said before, so I'm not totally disagreeing with you, Randy, because this is a Marvel movie I got through all the way. And there's a lot to be said for that, just for me personally, because I couldn't do that with the first one that I bailed out on was Morbius. Venom 2 I got through with beer. Doctor Strange 2, Multiverse of Madness, couldn't get through it. Wakanda Forever, couldn't get through it. There's about 6 of them I couldn't get through. This one I did.
Right.
And when I watched it at the cinema, because I wanted to review it, first day it come out in the UK, I was literally saying to myself, right, I'm going to give myself an hour, because it's a 2-hour long film, and I'm literally talking to myself saying, you've got to at least give it an hour before you walk out.
Okay.
So that you can slag it off on your YouTube channel. But I watched it all the way through.
Yeah.
It took me all the way through. And the title for my review is Dumb.
Okay.
That doesn't mean that I didn't enjoy it on some level, but it was dumb. It was dumb. And what you kind of enjoy with those Paul Rudd, those bookends, that was one of the most annoying things that I thought, well, how do I... You're just setting up a stupid... what worked in the first Ant-Man film, I thought you're just setting up a stupid narration, and Liz will tell you how much I've got a thing about narration. It's got to really, really work for me. I think that is the laziest form of cinematic storytelling to convey a story. Anyway, I got serious all of a sudden. But calming down, apart from those bookends that you enjoyed, you obviously found enjoyable. I found other bits of enjoyable. But now you've said that about the family aspect of it and the heart of it, again with Liz and Tayters, we converse about the heart of a story.
Yeah.
What character you follow through it. And there wasn't any agenda for a change.
Right.
For Dismal, there wasn't an agenda to it, and it was quite straightforward. And I do believe that Pfeiffer and Douglas carried the film. I don't think it was Paul Rudd. I think he was, and again, and I love him. I love his, you know.
I think it was the jelly dude that carried the film, to be honest.
Okay, and you're right. They did great.
I didn't have any holes.
No, Pfeiffer and Douglas are amazing in the roles. They're great. And let me point something else out. All right, and I don't normally like to talk about any agenda stuff and everything else, but this is also a film. Who were the heroes that accomplished what needed to be done? So that is Ant-Man and Hank Pym.
It was
the men.
It was Michael Douglas. He said, "Hey, with the ants." Didn't he?
Oh, yes, but also Ant-Man. He does quite a bit, right? And who put everyone in danger? It was Janet, right?
He did a lot. When he turned it to Giant Man, really, they should have called it Giant Man Big Mania.
Okay, I'm not going to argue with that, but if we're looking for positive points, this is a movie that has family at the center. It is not making fun of men. In fact, the men are the ones who find the solution. And I'm not saying that men always need to find solutions. I'm just saying that in our current culture, we don't see that. And we did see that. So this movie stands out for me as like, yay, we got away from agenda. And yeah, I might go see it a third time because you know what? I would like this movie to succeed, and I would like more movies to come out without agendas and move away from it. So it was entertaining enough. I enjoyed the aliens. I enjoyed the ants coming in at the end and everything. So yeah, I'd go see it a third time. We need to support movies and entertainment that is not driven by agendas and is attempting to do stories. And it's a sad thing that right now, in the world, we have to, so could this be better? And 20 years ago, would I have said all the positive things? Probably not, because there was a lot more options out there. Right now, we don't have a lot of options.
No, so you're picking, again, it's the sweet corn in the poo.
Okay.
Same as I have.
So,
no, but I'm with you, Rand. To be fair, I'm with you because I didn't give it total negative. In fact, let me have another bit of gin.
whilst you're having your gin,
and I'm going to be more positive about it. But no, in all seriousness, Randy, I see what you're saying. I didn't pick up on the family aspect of it, actually. I'm going to have to edit that bit of you out, and I'm going to have to edit this in a way that makes it my idea.
Okay. You can do that.
No, I'm only joking. But no, let's really... Because I didn't hate, like I say, I didn't hate it. And out of the last half a dozen crappers that they've done, this one took me through.
Right.
Took me through. You had a bit of Bill Murray. That was a bit jarring. But
oh, really? I loved it.
Well, I kind of loved it. It was jarring, though. It was kind of like he was there and then gone. And I don't know.
I think for me, so I went and watched it, and it was once.
Oh, yeah.
And I was going to stay on and watch Cocaine Bear, but I was done by that point. But so for me,
talking to that, I'm going to have to go.
Got a bear back there, have you?
For me, it was an interesting film simply because it was better than everything we've had in Phase 4, apart from Spider-Man No Way Home, in which I think, to be honest with you, it's a close par to. but it still doesn't. It's better than everything in Phase 4, but it still doesn't beat the first glorious Phase 1 to 3 of the MCU.
I agree.
It doesn't beat that. So it's better than what we've had in the last couple of years, but it's still not great. Where the film, I could pick it apart. I could pick apart Michelle Pfeiffer not telling anyone about Kang in the quantum realm.
You leave her
that you
alone.
can't. That you
Don't
can't go
go
back to.
anywhere.
Hang on.
Alien, you dirty alien. You
all right, shut up.
Alone.
All right. So the fact that she's saying about you can't go back and experiment in the quantum realm, well, in the Ant-Man and the Wasp, in the post-credit scene, she's literally experimenting with the quantum realm. So she's totally contradicting what she's doing. That's how Ant-Man gets stuck in the quantum realm when the blip happens, and that's how he comes back and saves everyone. But I could pick it apart. I'm not going to with this one. For me, where it fell flat was Kang. Now, this is the first film in Phase 5, and this is the first film that has any sort of relevance to where the MCU is going moving forwards. The only other times, so we've seen the multiverse. We know it's going to be the multiverse saga. We've seen that in Phase 4 with Spider-Man. We've seen it with Doctor Strange, but they've almost been like happy accidents. We've seen the timeline stuff with Loki season 1, where we had Kang at the end. All that stuff is pretty much irrelevant. You could literally watch Endgame and go straight into this, Man Quantumania. But this is supposed to be setting up everything moving forward, and it's supposed to be setting up Kang as your next Thanos level threat. We've already seen a version of him die in Loki, and we see him get beaten in a basically in a fist fight by Ant-Man.
Yeah, that was lame.
So how's he our big villain? If he can be beaten in a fist fight with Ant-Man, what's he going to be like when he goes up against Thor or the Hulk, or even, I'm going to say it, Captain Marvel? The threat level's not there. Then he gets beaten.
Ms. Marvel with her big...
Or Miss Marvel or any of the others. But this is supposed to be on where, I think for me, this movie, where in a way, I wish I kind of just saw it as a standalone, where you go into it and the way it's been hyped, it's the next big Thanos level threat that's being introduced. It's the most relevant film. It didn't build up your bad guy. He wasn't threatening enough. He just seemed like a typical bad guy, not your big next Thanos level threat. And I think that's where they fell short. And I find it interesting that this, like you say, Randy, it's got a heart to it because it is a story about family. And there was some funny moments. The jelly dude, I really liked him. He was funny. He was amusing me. But
how many holes do you have?
But overall, it just felt a bit flat. And that's pretty much where I'm going to leave it at with that, because it felt a bit flat. And I mean, the box office says it all. People just aren't interested. It makes me worry even more about the MCU. It's the worst performing MCU film at the cinema, at the box office. And it's been beaten by Cocaine Bear.
I think you're right about Kang. So maybe the film we'd have a much different conversation going if they cast Kang differently. And who I'm thinking is in Firefly, there was an assassin and he was so engaging. So Amber, you know the character I'm talking about, right?
From the series or the movie, Randy?
He's in both.
No, he's
in the movie.
In the series, it was Jubal Early.
Yeah, and in the movie, he was just called the Operative. He doesn't have a name in the movie. He's just called the Operative.
So actually, I think either one, because he was like philosophical and he was extra creepy in a positive way because of that, right? So if we had someone more like that playing Kang, I think Kang would have become off as more sinister and a greater threat. Because I know Kang's got lots of power. He's super powerful, but personality wise, he was super boring too. So if we had a villain,
I think it's the fact that he got beaten by Ant-Man, a load of ants. It's like, well, we've seen him die at the end of Loki, a variant of him die at the end of Loki. We've seen him get beaten now. What sort of big level threat does that say? So because it's that version of Kang that's going to be coming back, because it's Kang the Conqueror that's going to be that's what the Kang dynasty is all about and all that sort of stuff. So it's going to be that version of Kang that's coming back. We've already seen him been beat. The fact that, like, when Thanos, we alluded to Thanos through phase 1 to 3, through the Avengers, through Guardians, etc. We saw little snippets of him. His opening scene, he takes out a load of Asgardians, murders Loki, and beats the shit out of the Hulk. Now you know, oh God, we've got a bad guy here. This is going to be tough. How are we going to beat him?
Yeah, Thanos was a great villain. Yeah.
Or
This film would have done a lot better, even if you hadn't changed the actor as Kang. If, you know, he beats the shit out of them, they managed to get a sort of a bittersweet ending where they're trapped in the quantum realm or something like that, but he gets out, or something where he still shows that he is formidable. And you build up the stakes. Have him kill off, because that's the third Ant-Man movie. I very much doubt, especially after the performance of this, you're going to get a fourth one. Have him kill off a character. Have him kill off a couple of people.
Have him kill off Ant-Man. I mean, as much as I like Paul Rudd, I think you're so right. So it's not believable that Ant-Man at his power level.
Hold on, they killed Darren. Darren died. Or MODOK, I mean, MODOK.
Okay. Yeah, let's not go there. Okay, that's the part I hate about the movie. But I mean, so I think it'd be more satisfying if what we see is instead that Scott Lang outwits Kang in the short term, because he's got a criminal past and he does something sneaky based on his criminal past, and then he's stuck there. And yeah, you know what? We lose Ant-Man. Yeah. And that's sad, which adds more poignancy to the story, and I think that would be better.
And it builds up Kang better moving forwards.
Yeah.
If Ant-Man and his girlfriend were stuck there at the end it. Just end it there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now across the CGI vista of the alien world. And I thought if they'd have ended it there, that would have been quite, like you say, poignant. That would have been, don't do no post-credit, because that's being done to death now as well. We all know, we're all sitting there like lemmings, isn't we, going, give us the little post-credit scene. I'll edit that bit out. But they just couldn't end it on a little bit of a sad note. He has to have another punch up, and she has to come through the portal, and it all has to be resolved. They just couldn't, even though we all know they're setting up another 18 films in the next phase.
See, Kang is intriguing.
Where they're left in the quantum realm, because if him and what's the name? Old Pixie haircut. What's the name? Wasp. Yeah, was left there. I would have thought, oh, that's pretty cool. They're there.
The one line in that film,
in the next part of the intrigue of Dismal, Linus Marvel. That's all I have to say about that.
The one thing that I found most intriguing with that film, the one line, was when Kang says, "I've seen the end. I know what happens." I'm thinking, please fucking tell me, because I need something to keep me going.
I think that's a great line, but for me, what I felt, and this goes with us talking about maybe Ant-Man gets stuck there, maybe Ant-Man dies, which is, I don't have to beat you. I just have to make sure we both lose.
Yeah. Yes.
And that's a story of sacrifice, and it would have been emotionally powerful. And I think that's the route they should, because when I heard that, I'm like, yes. And then, yeah, they do the cheesy end, and I agree. I didn't care for the end. Of course, I don't complain about that as much as MODOK. I hated MODOK, so I will say that.
Don't be a dick.
Yeah, it was.
Which movie did?
What's that?
Which movie did Joss Whedon direct? And he wrote and directed one of the Avenger movies, I think it was.
The first Avengers and the second.
Avengers.
Okay,
And
so
the second.
I remember seeing that, and he killed off a favorite character, and it wasn't one of the prime characters, but a favorite character.
Awesome.
And people were so shocked when that happened, but it was also received really positively. Everybody said that made it feel, you know, like hard hitting. That made the high points feel really high because that was such a low point. And something that he said, and this is, you know, this was his first movie since I think since like Firefly and a few littler things. But he said, you know, you have to kill off a main character. He's like, I was told, don't do this, don't kill them off. And he's like, if you don't kill them off, nobody believes the danger anymore. And if you do kill them off, never bring them back again. Never. And
no consequences.
Yeah.
And that's where the multiverse, that's when the multiverse and the track verse and the fucking magic verse, what they're doing now in all these realms of magic and wonder is there are no consequences.
Right.
And I think that's why I've completely lost interest
And
in
that's
the whole
why
franchise.
no one's because
like imagine if this film ended, say for example you didn't kill off Ant-Man because you want to use him for the further down the line, and Paul Rudd's a bit of a draw and you can throw him in to a more serious movie and he's like the comedic heart of that, just to bring a bit of a lighter edge to it. Imagine if you killed off Michelle Pfeiffer, Michael Douglas, get rid of Wasp or something like that, and he's lost everything. Kang's done that to him. Kang escapes and Ant-Man is trapped in the quantum realm with no way of getting the message out that Kang is coming. That would have then intrigued people to go, oh shit, we've still got Ant-Man, so we can still invest in that character.
And I wouldn't mind being trapped down in the quantum realm with Wasp, would you?
But he's lost something as well, and now he's got no way of getting back. And that impending doom that's going on the universe, he knows about it, but he can't tell anyone. So he's stuck down there. He's trying to get that message. So it ends it on that somber note, and that would have intrigued people moving forward. Oh, I can't wait to see what happens with Kang now.
That is such a that's so strong. And I have a phrase that I use, a line that I use when I'm teaching, and because I'm given a hard time often about killing off characters in my stories, but the truth of the matter is there is no meaningful victory without sacrifice. That's kind of one of those pillars of truth. And what we're talking about is exactly that concept. If we had had a sacrifice, because it's important that the universe not be destroyed and all the timelines not be destroyed, then we take it more serious and it impacts us more, and people recognize that and they resonate with it. So absolutely, I think all these ideas we're pitching around about what they could have done with it would have really increased the level of the writing and response on this movie.
But are we being too quick to ask for that? Because the Marvel stuff built up and all the sacrifices come after about 15 movies, and we was getting into the end game territory. And I know that this is what everyone's holding up as the gold standard, and I know what you're saying, Randy, but so are our expectations too high?
No.
This one film?
No, because
someone to die. We want
because if you put it into context, phase 1 to 3 was about 22 films or something like that. We've had 15. We've had 15 projects in phase 4, so this is project number 16 since Endgame.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So it's about time.
Well, and also this is launching on phase 5, right? I mean, if this is the launch point for phase 5, that's the way to do it, with an exclamation mark. And it says that it's going to be serious moving forward. I mean, I think it is the
way with someone like
in
escape, leave them two trapped.
But we're moving forward with
make little wasps and ant babies, maybe.
But we're moving forward with a bad guy that's already been beaten.
Yeah, that makes him weak, right? Or weaker than we want.
Yeah, you want the might of the Avengers, all of them together going, oh shit, we can't beat this guy. That's when you get your stakes. That's when you get your next Thanos level threat. Someone like Galactus, for example, would give you that. They've gone
Yeah.
with Kang. Okay, fine. They've gone with Kang, but Kang could do that, but you just need to sell him right. And to
Yeah.
be fair, Jonathan Majors as an actor, I think he did okay. I think he done all right
He
with
did
it.
all right.
He done all right with the material that he was given,
Exactly.
But
and
they
that's the
everyone else had
difference.
rings around him. Those scenes he had with Michelle Pfeiffer, she could just do that in her sleep.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Like,
yeah,
he
definitely.
wasn't any. He had no, and that was just her being awesome. I don't know if you realised I'm a fan, but that is her being really awesome. But those scenes, they didn't resonate. He had no. There was nothing he could. Maybe that was in the screenplay. Maybe that was in the script. But it's almost like he had nothing to threaten her with. She was so calm, and again, it was passive aggression again. And what we were speaking about earlier on with Frau Bissner in Picard, and you've really got to be spot on with that for it to work.
And that's like Ralph Fiennes could pull that
Look,
off.
the passive aggressive villains to work, you really got to have actors really on an A game. And where Pfeiffer's on her A game, and she was on her A game 20 years ago before fucking Kang was born. And I'm not saying he's bad, he's a bad actor. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that they weren't on the same level. I just weren't thinking at any point. I was thinking at any point in any of their solo scenes towards the end, I'm just thinking, oh, she's got something up her sleeve. She's just going to do it.
But I wonder why.
Scene in the stadium with all the Kangs for Liz and Randy. So when all the Kangs are in that stadium at the end, what was we meant to feel? What, threatened? What, oh my God, there's loads of Kangs. One's been defeated and there's a million of them. Because I didn't feel that. I just thought, oh God.
Well,
that's
the main question with that is there's a load of Kangs, but those are the Kangs that exile Kang the Conqueror. So we shouldn't be threatened by them because they're the ones that got rid of the most evilest one. But even so, say for example, all those Kangs were evil, going by the logic of the multiverse, you've got an entire team of Avengers across the multiverse to fight each individual Kang. And we've seen that one Avenger, in terms of Ant-Man, can beat them. So there's no threat. So it kind of throws it out. I think the weirdest thing though is we've kind of said it's not as bad as Phase 4, but it's not as good as what the Marvel of old was. But it's performed the worst, and that's quite worrying. It's performed worse than Black Widow, and I said this on the little news thing. It's performed worse than Black Widow, and Black Widow was released during COVID and also simultaneously released on Disney Plus. It's had a 70% drop off weekend on weekend, which is the highest of any Marvel movie. And it's been beaten by Cocaine Bear on the second weekend. So we're saying it's not as bad as Phase 4, but it's done worse than Phase 4. I don't quite get that.
The other metric to include in that is the fact that cinema tickets are that much more expensive. I know we include inflation, and when we say, oh, how much money did Gone with the Wind earn in 1949, and then adjust for inflation, but between what Marvel have been doing pre-pandemic and now, and the cost of a cinema ticket, when we look at revenue, there are objectively less people sitting down watching those films.
It's sad.
Like saying it's earned 100 million on its first weekend. Fine, that's all good. Like, great guy, good job, guys. But you have put less bums on seats than you did 4 years ago.
Do you think it's because of Disney Plus though? Because people know it's going to be on Disney Plus in like 40 days.
Oh, no, I just think no. Oh, anyway, that's a whole other philosophical hogCAST. That is why there's less people going to watch it and
Tayters, are you going to go and see it?
Probably not.
Probably not.
No, probably not.
You're waiting for Disney Plus.
Not because I don't want to. It's just with everything else going on at the moment, I don't think I'm going to get time. So
there was never a time, just Amber and Randy, there was never a time when Liz and Tayters weren't first in the queue for Marvel stuff.
yeah,
Yeah, we used to be.
back in the day, yeah. Again,
How times change and how we had just everything around it. You know, that little the charisma around the actors they're involving, or the storylines they're telling, the characters they're choosing to tell the stories of.
I think it's just a combination of a ton of stuff. It's the quality of the writing that we're seeing. It's the quality of the effects that we're seeing. It's the fact that people know it's going to be streamable really soon. It's that the economy is really shitty right now, and the price of a ticket is really expensive. It's also fatigue of the franchise. I mean, my brother-in-law is a huge fan of Marvel, and even he is like, I haven't cared about Marvel for the last couple of years.
Yeah, my son is the same. I mean, he's. We got to Endgame, and I actually did say to her, and I've said this to Liz, I've bored Liz and Tayters endlessly, but they're still with me. Love you guys. But
love you.
At Endgame, I did say to my son, we'd watched them all. We'd watched them all at the cinema, all the way through, and I got to Endgame, and this was obviously pre-pandemic, and I said, that's enough now. I didn't know the pandemic was coming, but I said, we could do with a year off. And I knew
you got it.
The plans, like they got,
your fault.
Yeah, no, but I didn't plan the pandemic. But
you sure?
I saw. No, but I said we can do now with a year. I didn't realise quite what I was getting at, but it is that fatigue, like you're saying. With it's that we're all done with capes for a little while, maybe, and I think we are. I think they could have.
And it's the fact that there's no end in sight. There's no end in sight. You just know this is going to go on forever. You go, you know what? I can take a break for a while and then come back in a couple of years and watch it. And I think a lot of people are going to have that attitude. Now, if you were to announce Marvel is coming to an end, we are going to stop producing these Marvel films. If you were to announce that and say there's 4 movies left, I'll bet you those last 4 would be a hit.
Yeah, and I mean they've announced up till 2025. So there's 2 Avengers films coming out in 2025. You got Kang Dynasty and Secret Wars. Just end it.
No,
just
get rid of it. You haven't got to stop. You do non-superhero. You go Marvel horror. You do Blade. You do Ghost Rider. You do the Sons of Vengeance, whatever they're called, the Sons of Midnight, whatever it is.
Midnight Suns.
But it's still putting an end to what we are seeing. It's basically saying this type of movie is done. We're putting it on the shelf for a while. We're going to focus on something else. It'll refresh everybody's desire to go and see it again. I mean, you can only eat so much ice cream before you say, you know what, I'm sick of ice cream.
As a corporation,
no, that's not true, Amber. That is not true.
You've obviously not eaten as much ice cream as I have, because I have actually gorged myself and said, nope, I think I'm done for a couple years, and I was.
Years. Ugh.
Controversy in the Right Advice camp.
Now, I would like to see a break be taken, and then wait until people are really hungry for it, and then put one movie out and see how it does. Wait a couple of years and then okay, we're going to try with just one. People will be starved for it at that point.
They just can't do that. They can't do that.
That's the thing. They're seeing the pound notes, aren't they?
That's like a corporation. I know we're talking about media and entertainment, but you imagine yourself, you're at the head of a business, a corporation, and you make baked beans. And it's like some bright spark in the boardroom says, let's stop making that recipe of baked beans that we earn $1 billion a year at. Let's just stop that, so that in a year's time, they want baked beans even more.
But then they're not making $1 billion. They're losing money at the moment.
No, but I know that's a weak analogy, but these corporations cannot stop. But what I would say is, come away from the capes. They done Werewolf by Night. Dismal done Werewolf by Night. It was overlooked, but very well received. And it was horror, and it was all the Marvel horror characters. They've done Blade is a proven success, and they got the guy in the frame to do the Blade movies when they was announcing Phase 22 in 2048, and they go that far ahead. But where it's all come to a bit of a stuttering halt, right? Everyone's getting a bit fed up. No one's got any insight into modern audiences thinking, but what everyone does like is a horror film. And Werewolf by Night did well on Dismal, but yet again, no one dares to put their hand up and say, what about Man Thing? Man Thing went down well in Werewolf by Night, and we've got a load of other. What about Blade? We've got a load of Marvel horror characters. We did Frankenstein in the 70s, and we did a load of weird shit with Ghost Rider, and put a hand up.
But compare it to a shop.
Put their hand up with Guardians of the Galaxy, which was a weird choice. When they was cracking on with Iron Man and Captain America and all the traditional ones, someone put their hand up and went, let's do Guardians of the Galaxy. How weird was that? If you put it back.
Compare it to a shop, but compare it to a shop.
They took the risk.
Compare it to a shop, though. So you've got a shop that's selling some goods, whatever products and items that you're selling, it's doing well, and it's a hit for the first 3 years.
Yeah.
But then you start changing it up a bit, and you start selling some different stuff, and you start selling a load more stuff in that shop, but it's not going down as well. In the real world, you'd look at it and go, what are we doing wrong? And let's get back to what we were doing good. These lot can't seem to, it's almost, I don't know whether it's an ignorance or an arrogance, or I don't know what it is. They've gone wrong, and it's evidence from they're losing fans, they're losing the amount of like box office hits, they're losing subscribers, everything's going down. You need to pull back and go, right, what's going wrong here? And there could be multiple different answers, but you work on fixing it, because otherwise your shop's getting shut down.
Yeah.
And they don't seem to be doing that. It's not that they have to stop doing these Marvel movies. It's the fact that they've got to go back to the recipes and the ingredients that made the Marvel movies, the first 3 phases, so good. And again, the amount of content. I mean, phase 4 has had 15 additions to it. And that's way too much for a phase.
Too much. Does anyone?
Yeah, it's way too much.
It's too much. So when Dismal bought Marvel and Star Wars, I was never ever envisaged. Like last year, they done 4 Marvel TV series and 4 Star Wars TV series. I never envisaged that level of content, that wave of I never thought that. I thought we might get one Stormtrooper TV series when they bought Star Wars. I was thinking, I was excited. I was loving it. I was thinking, yes, it's about time we had a TV series of Star Wars. But I didn't expect that tsunami.
You get story fatigue too. They got to try not to do the same story. If they're producing so much within the same world, they have to say, okay, we can't copy the story. It has to be different enough in each of these that people feel like they're watching something different. And the problem with that is if you have so many different stories going on, there's going to be some similarities between them. There's going to be some patterns that are the same, or there's going to be things where you're going, why are they bothering with this? This is boring. This is not interesting. And you can tell that the writers were just trying to finagle something interesting out of this weird side quest or whatever that they're doing. It's too much. Whereas if you have, like, let's say we took all of the Marvel movies and said, what if they produced only half as many Marvel movies as they have? What if it was just 50% of what you've got out there now? I'll bet you the stories and the content would be far more condensed, more interesting, because you've got less garbage that's thrown in to try to make something happen.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Okay, let me go a different route with this. All right, so I think that Marvel and all of these big guys, I think that they're going to have problems, and I think that they're going to super struggle for this. So we see that the economies are different. It's tougher to get into movies or to get the fans into the movies because of the cost and everything else. So what I feel is going to succeed in the industry is to go more of the independents, more of the smaller studios or publishers, people who can put together a story, who understand story, and they're working on story first. They're not worried about the other stuff and are offering that in an affordable, consumable
I hope
item.
you're right, Randy. I hope you're right.
All right. I mean, I'm
really-
hedging my bets on it because I've got the comic coming out right for kicks, and I'm hedging my bets that people are going to like the idea that it's different, and I'm going to focus on story. I'm not going to focus on politics or messaging. I mean, storytelling is messaging in a way, but more the traditional messaging of I don't know, good values.
Message comes out of the story rather than the story going into the message.
Yeah.
Correct. Right.
Yeah.
And
Well,
I
I
feel
think you've got 3 human and 1 alien fans straight away, mate.
okay, excellent. And I feel that I have a chance to go forward and maybe do pretty well, right? Because I'm going to ignore all the stuff that we're talking about, that Disney and Marvel and everyone else should be changing. Yeah, I get it, and I'm not going to do those mistakes. I'm going to come in strong with story, and hopefully people will respect that. And I really feel that the independents, the smaller producers of content, I think this is their time to shine. People will give them money. They will buy product because it's good. And we're tired of the garbage. So smaller film producers, I think they could make a movie in a budget that's reasonable. You know, making a movie for 300 million doesn't make sense anymore because it's just not going to make that money back, right? You get someone come in and they've got a modest budget, $1 million, $2 million, $5 million. Okay, you can do a pretty good movie for $5 million if it's not bloated and you're not like super special effects heavy and everything else.
Joker was done for 5 million.
Pardon?
Joker was done for 5 million with Phoenix. That was
Yeah.
done for 5 million.
And that made money, right? Because it had a lot going for it. So they need to change their paradigm, and they're too big and they're too entrenched in what they're doing.
Yeah.
So we need the smaller guys to step forward.
And more, instead of
Right.
calm down,
So,
go over there, like Liz just said with the Joker.
right. More of that. And then the industry would be doing it right. Because, they're going to make money. 5 billion, they're going to get it back, right? And the whole industry needs to kind of do some shifting. And I do see that. So locally here in the Phoenix area, I see a lot of foreign films now. If I'm looking at the theater, we're not getting the big studios as much. We might have 3 or 4 big studio films, and then we're getting a lot of independents and foreign films coming in because they realize that there's just not the same draw that we had from Hollywood originally. So I encourage all the creators out there who are watching us, this is your time to shine. This is your time to go out there. This is a great opportunity. We're in a point where we have a chance to be noticed because the public is tired of the old stuff.
Yeah, hurrah for that, to be fair, Randy.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Hurrah for that. And there is a lot of stuff you saying about Kicks Comics. There is a lot of, forget the main 2, but a lot of what I do in my weekly comic reviews is mostly independents and Image Comics. Image Comics publish. They're just publishers. They don't.
Right.
They're not sitting there. You know, it's not like Stan Lee back in the day getting together with Jack Kirby and creating comics. Their Image Comics are just a publisher, and a lot of them start. A lot of these comics start off at Kickstarter or Indiegogo, whatever it is.
All right.
And they go to Image, so they get started there. It's a writer and an artist, or just a writer-artist. They get the dough to produce their comic, and Image publishes it. But a lot of these are now getting picked up by Netflix and Amazon. There's at least half a dozen at the moment in development right now. There's one that I'm excited about, and it's a horror series called Something is Killing the Children. It's a great horror story.
Is it Biden?
No.
I'm sorry.
Wow. Randy, wait. You ambushed me there, man. I don't often go serious, and you just mugged me. You mugged me.
I'm sorry.
You have just clubbed me over the head like a seal.
I'm sorry. Please go on.
No, that's it. I've had enough of these podcasts. And inviting guests on, so-called Randys and Ambers. But no, to answer your question. Wow.
I'm gone. I'm going on mute for a sec. Hang on.
I'm going to have to do a thumbnail with me saying, I don't go there, but Randy does.
Randy did, yeah.
Randy. Yeah, Randy. I never go there, but Randy did in capital letters. No, I love that.
Oh, brilliant.
Anyway, it's a little.
So I mean, and you're making a good point. So my buddy, who's been pulling in all the Hollywood talent, he is going to LA this weekend, and he's going to be talking to people, and we're still looking for someone to voice Justness, who's one of the main two characters. But I mean, you're exactly right. And yeah, we would love to be able to eventually pull a deal like you're talking about with Netflix or someone where they're like, oh no, this is good, this is different, people are liking it, we'd like to do something with it. So I mean,
Mark Miller, who did Kick-Ass, and what's the other one?
The Boys.
No, the other film.
Jupiter.
Yeah, he did Jupiter's Legacy. The other one I didn't like. No, literally, I didn't like, because I don't like that trope. I don't like that take on it. I don't like the deconstructionist. Oh my God, let's reduce superheroes down to base level, because it's been done. Like The Boys, and anyway, Mark Miller is one of the proponents of that.
Yeah,
anyway, he's got 2 or 3 things going on, but his comics at the moment are really good. But all they are it's almost like they are storyboards for film and TV. It's almost like everything he creates for his comic universe,
right,
the Millerverse. All they are what would you call it? Not options. They are just like they are just the idea.
It's a proof of concept.
Yes, thank you, Liz. They're the pitch. They're the pitch for a TV series or a film. That's all.
Okay.
But having said that, they are mostly good. I mean, and a lot of it now, all the independent stuff that's coming through the graphic novel format, it's all magic and fantasy. Not a lot of science fiction. There's a couple of good science fiction stuff there. But anyway, I'm really rambling off the track. But I agree with you, Randy. I think the good storytelling is got to come back. I think all the Jar Jar Abrahams that are over that side, all of his acolytes, they're all fading now. Like the Picard, I think Discovery's just been cancelled, by the way.
Oh, okay.
They got their last season, haven't they?
Yeah, that's done. So all that Jar Jar side of things, the bad reboot, they're waning. They're on the what's it? Warner Brothers. Zaslav has told Jar Jar to do one. They gave him $250 million, didn't they? A few years ago, his production company, and he did diddly squat. So he's off on that side, and on the other side, you've got Dismal losing money. So yeah, what Randy's saying, that in the middle of it all, you're going to have like something like Netflix with Squid Games. Something's going to come, just something pure and just like that, or Stranger Things, or
Yeah.
Right.
is something is just going to come along and start bang, 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 or Wednesday, and they've brought what's his name back, Tim Burton, and he's just done something pure, that was quirky and original.
Right.
Eventually, money is going to talk. It has to, because people need to eat, and you can't eat without having money to buy food with. And I know it's like an extreme, but it's really true. And we're seeing it in publishing right now, in book publishing. So there's a really famous writer right now named Brandon Sanderson, and he's basically started a rebellion against the big 5 publishers, possibly soon to be the big 4, and Amazon. He did a Kickstarter for, he secretly wrote 5 books during the pandemic. So he writes like 2 books a year. So he was writing 2 books a year, but then during the pandemic, he also had enough time to secretly write 5 books. And people went nuts.
What does he write, Amber?
Science fiction and fantasy.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they're epic. They are fat tomes like this. He just eat and sleep and drink. Right.
He took over the wheel of time after Jordan died.
So he did a Kickstarter.
Because that was great as well. Just quickly, that was really great.
Yeah.
The show they done of the Wheel of Time.
Oh, the film, the show.
The show. Oh, that was
so
spot on. That showed me how they was going to do the Rings of Power when that come out. Anyone who was willing to listen and watch, I said, watch this. That's what Amazon are going to do to Lord of the Rings.
Okay, but his books are great.
Yeah.
His books are awesome.
Anyway, side note. So yeah, carry on. Sorry, Anne.
Yeah. Well, just so he wrote these 5 books, and he was so upset about how Amazon, which owns Audible, kind of screws over new writers. And he tried to negotiate with them and say, look, you guys have to encourage unknown writers to want to be writers, but they weren't making any money. I mean, a digital sale, I'm not going to go into the details. Just go and look up what Brandon Sanderson had to say about that in particular. And he decided, I'm going to do a Kickstarter, and I'm going to self-publish my 5 books. Instead of giving them to the big 5 and to Amazon and to these big publishers, I'm going to do it myself. His Kickstarter raised something like $5 million.
Oh, no. It raised $43 million.
Okay, there you go.
No way.
It was ridiculous.
Wow. And then he went and pulled that much in, and he knew, like, I don't need that much money.
Yeah.
He offered to help fund all of the book Kickstarters for, like, I don't know, for a month or so. And I'm not saying that he gave all the money they needed, right? But he would look at every single one, and, you know, maybe he gave it $1 if he didn't think it was, I mean, because you can do that on Kickstarter.
Yeah.
If he didn't think it was, you know, maybe his deal. Some of them, you're like, I'm going to fund all the rest. Everything they need to get to that point, I'm going to do that. So he went through, because he knew he didn't need that much money to publish 5 books.
So he did this, and it actually caused the big 5 to panic. And it's been a while since I read the article, but I recall that there was like a meeting between the big 5 going like, we can't let Brandon Sanderson do this. Yeah. What are they going to do?
I love that.
But he also said he's not going to let his 5 new books go onto Audible. He's going to start he's going with, I think it was Speechify
or Substack or something.
It's some littler one. He shopped around and he found one that's willing to give like the best deal to all writers. Like, so you, just because you're famous doesn't mean you get a special deal where you get to make even more money. If you are a newbie coming in and you've got something and it sells, you get the same percentage. So he went to them and he's like, I'm going to only publish there. So the biggest writer in the world right now, and Brandon Sanderson is by far the biggest writer in the world, he is only going to be with these 5 new books on this one platform. He's using what he's got to create competition, high level competition for the big 5. And we're going to see stuff like this happening.
I love that.
Yeah, I do too. And so there's a book that I really liked called The Sword of Kaigen, and it came out, it was a little self-published.
Sorry, say that again.
The Sword of Kaigen.
Right.
Kaigen. And it's this gal who just, wrote this novel and self-published it. Terrible cover. I know she did it herself, but either way, it was not very well marketed, but people loved it, and by word of mouth, it became big. So she does a Kickstarter to get a brand new cover for it. She only needed $5,000 to do another edition with this nice new cover with professional artwork. She's raised $240,000. People have money and want to see this stuff. And I'm talking about book publishing, but this goes towards, graphic novels and towards film. Like, if we're going to see it everywhere. I think the shift is coming fast. People have money and they're tired of the crap that we're seeing. So they're looking.
I really hope you're right, Amber.
I think, we'll see the crap come out for a while longer. They're going to squeeze that sponge out until they're ripping the sponge in half. But we're going to see the little guys who have some original ideas and love storytelling. I think they're about to step up big time.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's got to be a new vanguard.
Yeah. And all it takes is one guy who's got the money to really start the revolution. I mean, I don't know how many, I watch a lot of BookTube. A lot of booktubers who are also writers are now refusing to publish their books on Audible, because Brandon Sanderson brought to light this big issue that you are starving your writers. You are discouraging young people and new writers from putting their stuff out there, because they're going, I spend 2 years slaving away over this, and then I hardly make any money from it.
And right. Like that is a lot of what we've been talking, what we always talk about, to be fair, is the creative bankruptcy of the corporations that have got a stranglehold on TV. Like I know you're talking about books specifically.
It's all related to storytelling.
Yeah, it's the stranglehold at the moment is a new film. We all love films. Look, the five of us all sitting here now, we all love cinema. We all love TV. We've done a special on old science fiction TV shows, right? But at the moment, no one is able, no one is willing, they are able, but they're not willing to take a chance on anything new that hasn't already been an established property. Yeah. And that makes things really boring.
Well, that's why we have to go with the smaller creators and small film companies. Yeah. And, so we're in a good position. So if you're a fan and you're tired of horrible movies and horrible comics and horrible books, you know what? Get on Kickstarter or GoFundMe. Is it GoFundMe or is it something else? Get on one of the sites, and help support these independents who have good storytelling. Find something that you like. I like that. That sounds like a good story. I want it. And do some supporting of that. You know what? And then another thing, if you're in the industry or you're wanting to be in the industry, network. We need to reach out more. I mean, so any filmmakers out there, smaller independent filmmakers out there, you like Randy, I like what you're talking about. And if you've got a great story, I'd like to do a small film on that. Okay, contact me. We'll do it. And maybe we'll start something. And so that's not me wanting to just pitch for myself. What I'm saying is that's as simple as it is. You've got something, reach out to other people. What was it? A couple of months ago, I made a comment about how awesome the hogCAST was and how I enjoyed Hog's reviews and stuff, because it felt like I'm just sitting around with when I was just watching it, that I was just sitting around with a friend and we're just BSing about going to the movies or whatever, right? And now look at it. I get to be part of that. I actually am sitting around with a friend and BSing about the movies.
With the BS. Excellent. And it takes talent, Randy. It takes talent to join in with the level of BS that we're at.
So, I'm just saying that let's, everyone, all of us, let's just stop. I mean, we can complain all we want. We can continue to complain, but let's not just complain. Let's do something about it.
100%.
A call to arms, Randy. I love it.
Yeah.
The revolution has begun.
Yes. Well, I think, to be fair, I think that's a good place to, unless anyone else has got anything controversial they want to talk about. But I think that's a really good place to end.
Yeah, man.
This
Nice.
particular hogCAST. I think that was a good one.